It's weird, man. It gets weird in here.
What's going on, party people? Welcome to another post-game edition of Irish Breakdown Podcast. I'm Vince D'Addario. That guy is Ryan Roberts. That guy down there is Brian Driscoll. And we are back from, Brian and I are back from the final home game of the season. Notre Dame with a resounding victory over Wake Forest, 45-7. And of course, Ryan Roberts was watching with bated breath the entire time. Breaking everything down, and we had some fun chats back and forth throughout the game, so that was a lot of fun. But we are going to break it down, and at the end of the day, folks, Notre Dame got their 8th win of the season, and it was a no-doubter. It was a no-doubt win from really start to finish. What? I said it was a no-doubt win.
We're a minute in.
It's a no-doubt win.
I'm going to give you another minute, Vince. Go ahead. I'll give you another minute.
It's a no-doubt win. Notre Dame dominated from whistle to whistle. Brian, go.
What was the score, Vince?
45-7. I forgot.
Can I get a little something for the boss?
Forgot.
I mean, come
forgot.
on, man.
I forgot. Hold on. Let me back up. Somebody predicted the exact right score. If you go look at the predictions, and that somebody was Brian Driscoll with a 45-7 prediction, which held true the entire time. We knew it was going to happen. He actually wrote in the Gamer, and I'm not lying to you folks, it said 45-7 when 45 points had not yet been achieved.
Yes.
And that was the first sentence in the Gamer. And I looked over at him. I was like, you already had it written down. He's like, yeah, because I knew that was going to happen. Like,
yes.
All right.
Well, not just because I predicted the score, but like the way the offense was moving the ball that last drive with Angeli, like they were going to go score. I mean, that was really, and it would have been easy to quickly change it, but yeah, they're going to go score. But yes, very convincing 45-7 win, Vince. Could have been worse. I mean, they missed some chances early to even put it away even more, but still very, very, very good win for Notre Dame. We all kind of knew that they were going to win convincingly. It just was, is it going to be just because you're better than them? Or is it going to be because, you actually make some improvements and such? And I'm going to hold off sort of any big picture. Oh, they turned the corner until we see them string it together. But certainly a step in the right direction, at least for today, with the win, and made plays in all phases, man. I mean, his offense played well. Defense had their moments, but again, held them to 7 points. Special teams had a real nice return from Jadarian Price. You had an onside kick recovery. So it's a nice team win and good senior day. And Notre Dame, what is it, the last 2 years, guys? And part of the reason I predicted why I predicted,
they finally let somebody score. They finally let somebody score on senior day.
The last 3 senior days, they've now outscored their opponents 144-7. The last 3 senior days. So they are certainly found ways to send their seniors out, and with a very memorable final game at Notre Dame Stadium, no doubt about it. So yeah, good win for Notre Dame. Vince, I think what I want to start off with too, man, is just this. I wouldn't say they came out like super, super fired up, but they came out, I thought, focused. That was the thing for me. They didn't necessarily execute great, but I didn't see anybody like, it wasn't like lackadaisical. It wasn't just going through the motions. I mean, there were some misexecutions early, but I felt like they came ready to play. That was one of the big things for me. And I know, Ryan, you and I talked about that in the show kind of overall. We just want to see this team come out and play with a little bit of an attitude. And I think to a degree they did, especially on offense. I thought they kind of came out and played like they had something to prove and bounced back. That Ryan, that Clemson loss was sitting in their mouths we did not enjoy the feeling of the last 2 weeks. I can only imagine what they felt like. And they certainly put that to rest pretty quick.
Yeah, they did. I would say for me, I never had a question of them coming out and wanting to be there and wanting to play hard and wanting to win, obviously. Felt like it just came out a little bit slow. It took a couple of drives to kind of ease in, but once they eased in, I mean, I think it was like the beginning of the second quarter. You were just like, an avalanche is about to happen here, right? I mean, because It actually kind of came out the way I predicted. I said the first quarter, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a slow back and forth, like just not a ton of separation. But then as soon as the second quarter hit, pretty much it was just like, all right, like guys, this is about to roll, right? The question was going to be, was it going to be 30 something to 10 at the end, or was it going to be the 45-7 that we ultimately saw? So yeah, as soon as they hit their stride, it was no contest. I mean, guys, I don't think we told you the absolute truth all week. Notre Dame was a much more talented team than Wake Forest. And as long as they were coached well and they were utilized correctly, they dominated this game.
I would say this. Let me say this real quick, Vince. I think I got the score right, but Ryan, I think you got the how it would play out pretty spot on as well. Because you kind of said that, like, I think they'll kind of start a little bit slow and just, not quite be on early, but at some point in time they're gonna pull away and it's not going to be really be a question. And that's kind of how it did play out. They didn't start fast like we talked about, but they got it done. They certainly got it.
It had a lot of the same feeling for me as the Pittsburgh game, to be honest with you. I mean, it was an overmatched team playing against Notre Dame at home. He's like, okay, well, what's the final score going to end up being? I said to a buddy before the game, and of course he always asked me questions about, betting and all of that. It's like, honestly, what should happen is Notre Dame should win by 3+ scores. Like that's what should happen in this game. But we've seen so much this season. I just don't know what's going to happen. That's what I told him. But this is what should have happened. It should have been. I said this has Pittsburgh vibes. Like it should be like Pitt. That should be like Pitt, and it ended up being that way. Yeah, it ended up being that way. Yeah,
and I think Wake played better than Pitt did. I think that's the other thing too.
Sure.
I mean, we saw a couple guys at Wake step up because, like Ryan, you and I talked about. We'll dive into specifics, offense, defense. But you and I talked about how their offense is very good, but their receivers are, and we kind of saw that today. They had a couple guys.
I like the Banks kid, man. I like the Banks kid.
Yeah,
just me though. Yeah.
We talked about how they've got a couple good defensive linemen and and we saw some of that today. So to me, Vince, if you're gonna say what can we take out of the season that's a positive, one is exactly what we saw today, and that is this team learned this season how to dominate the teams they're supposed to dominate. That's really what it came down to, right? I mean, every team that they played that either had a not very good defense or was overmatched talent-wise, they dominated, which we didn't see them do last year. They didn't do that against Marshall. They didn't do that against Stanford. They didn't even do it against Navy, really, because they let Navy claw back in. But the BC game was kind of a little bit of a breakout, and they've carried that into the season. The teams that they're supposed to beat and beat convincingly, they did. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's a positive, right? Like this isn't like, oh, that team sucks and Notre Dame do what they're supposed to. Yes, doing what you're supposed to do is something you should be commended for.
Because they didn't do it last year, Brian.
Exactly.
And I think that's the point that we need to make.
Even in 2021, Vince, I mean, they won those games. Like they barely beat Toledo. They barely beat a Florida State team that had a losing record. They had to, they pulled away from Wisconsin late, but like they barely beat Virginia Tech, who wasn't very good that year. They had a lot of games like that where in 2021, even where they didn't beat teams like they were supposed to. And this year against those teams, they've done that.
Right. They won those games and they won them. They didn't just win them; they won them convincingly. And again, a lot of people are going to look back and like, that's what you're supposed to do. Brian Kelly was winning those games. Okay,
sure.
I get it. Sure. But they didn't do it last year in his first year as the head coach.
Or Brian Kelly's last year, the way they're supposed to, yeah.
But they're doing it this year. And so it's not the step that we all wanted. But it's still a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And so it's a step. It's a step.
It's a step.
It's personal growth for Marcus Freeman and his staff, because I think the biggest thing now is, because I know we talked about this, but like I came out of the Pittsburgh game, even though it was 59-7, I still said, it's a dominating victory, but I still see some flaws there, right? Where I'm just like, that's still going to drive me crazy. Today was one where I actually came out and I was like, okay, you got a dominating victory. And I saw growth. I saw creativity offensively. I saw getting guys open. I saw tangible things that now I say, if you can hold on to that and harness that into a bowl game against a good team, into the better teams you play next season, if you can hold on to that and start showing that against the better teams in your schedule, then I'm optimistic for the future of the offense at Notre Dame and the future of this team in general.
Right. Yeah. And we saw just a little glimpse of what this team should be. because like we said, guys, look, Wake's not very good. They're 4-6. But as we also talked about, they had a 14-point loss to Georgia Tech. They had a 5-point loss to Clemson, a 17-point loss to Virginia Tech, a 25-point loss to Florida State, a 3-point loss to Duke, and a 20-point loss to NC State. Notre Dame just beat them by 38. So their previous worst loss was against Florida State by 25. Right? I mean, Notre Dame pounded them like nobody had pounded them this year. And that's the other part too. Is we can take that away again. That's kind of what I wanted to see. And it's always good when you think about just big picture, guys. It's always good because I think we all remember kind of the last game that we actually played in, and these kids are going to remember their last Notre Dame home game, and they're going to remember dominating, and Sam Hartman got a chance to kind of go out in a really good way, 4 touchdown passes against his old school. And we saw, we'll get into him a little bit more specifically, but, we saw some good things there and some good things other places. But overall, it's a quality win, man. I mean, it's hard to – there's things that we could there's things we'll get into nitpicking and all that, like we always do. But I was driving home thinking like, okay, what can I like be upset about? And I was like, you know what? That was like an enjoyable win to watch.
It was.
You know what I mean? Like it was an enjoyable win. It was a good team win, where everybody kind of contributed. And it was funny, the part of the ball that, and we'll get into specifics in a little bit, the part of the ball that I was most annoyed by today was the defense, which has been the part that's carried you all year. And that's why I say, like, it was good, but I got to say, like, the final score was good. I felt like, Ryan, the moment where I was like, okay, this game is over, it's not going to be closer than it should be, is when they blocked that field goal at the end of the second quarter. And it was 14-7. Their name was just kind of sputtering a little bit, and they went out and blocked that kick, and you're like, okay, that was Wake's chance. That was their chance.
Yeah. Well, they went down and got a field goal, and although I hated the series of downs to get to that field goal, but I agree. I mean, I think that you saw that when stuff like that's happening, right? I don't call it monotonous parts of the game, but like the little swinging of momentum part of the game, like that's only Wake Forest. That's Wake Forest's only chance to stay in that football game, right? Is to try to get that ball in and to hopefully eke out and continue to just kind of, bully a little bit and try to be that team. But you knew that once Notre Dame was able to just kind of open up the holster a little bit and to actually take their shots and to be able to be that team, it wasn't going to be close in the end. And luckily Notre Dame did ride that momentum out of halftime. I mean, you have obviously that big swing out of halftime with that minutes where you're just like, oh, that's nice, right? Like forced fumble, touchdown, onside kick. Like it was a great little sequence there. And Notre Dame rode that momentum until the end, obviously. Yeah.
Just some stats before we dive into the individual breakdowns of the sides of the ball, Vince. Notre Dame outgained Wake Forest today. Let's see here. It was 450 to 232. The Irish averaged 7.0 yards per play, above their season average. Wake had 4.1 yards per play, below their season average. Notre Dame rushed for only 137, but passed for 313. They held Wake Forest to 98 passing yards. It felt like it was more than that. They held them to 98 passing yards, gave up 134 on the ground. And then third down, Notre Dame won the third down battle. Don't remember the last time I said that. Went 5 of 10. Seriously. Wake went 5 of 13. And the Irish were a perfect 5 of 5 in the red zone in this game as well. And won the turnover battle in this game also. Notre Dame had one turnover, correct? I believe had they had just a fumble.
It was 1 for 1. You had the Rico Flores fumble.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. So they did not win the turnover battle. And then the official stats from Notre Dame says Notre Dame had 0 points off turnover, but I believe that is incorrect. I don't think they are calculating that appropriately, but really, really convincing win, guys. Notre Dame wins 45-7, and I believe. Let me just go look at this real quick. This would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th game this year where Notre Dame has held an opponent to less than 10 points in a game, which is a pretty good day's work. They did that once last year and did that 3 times the year before. So they've now done it 4 times this year, which means they've held their opponent to less than 10 points as many times this year as they did the last 2 years combined. Just a good day's work. And they've also now scored over 40 points for the 7th time this season. So 7 out of 11 games, Notre Dame's gone over 40 points in a game. So that's certainly something to build on. No question about it.
They have Wake Forest getting 7 points off the turnover, and that's not accurate at all because they had their touchdown way earlier.
Which one? I'm not sure which one. Which one are you? Like the one I just opened up from Allen, it says points off turnover 0-0.
Oh, okay. So, I'm looking at the live one that we on the website.
I wonder if they have. Oh, gotcha. I wonder if they have that backwards.
Yeah.
So we gave Notre Dame points off turnovers. I'm not sure. And first downs, Notre Dame won the first down battle 25-14. So just a very convincing win for the Irish.
It was. So big picture, Brian. I mean, we kind of broke it down, right? Big picture for Notre Dame, 8th win of the season. Gets them one step closer to that 9, and eventually, hopefully, that 10-win plateau. And we've talked about that a bunch, right? 10 wins looks a heck of a lot different than 9. And it's funny because when you look at, and I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse here, but when you look at head coaches and you look at, X amount of seasons with 10 wins or more, that kind of a thing, this would count. If they get if they can win the next 2, this counts, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's a silver lining, but I love it. I mean, 10 wins is 10 wins. And that's how head coaches are judged, right?
Well, we definitely know they're going to get 8, right?
We definitely know they're going to get 8,
and that's the key. We can
absolutely.
We'll dive into the rest of that here moving forward, but you had to get this one to get to that point, Vince, right? It's that absolutely. Building blocks, right? You needed this one to put yourself in position for the next one. We'll dive into that as we get into the week, but again. You wanted to see how this team was going to bounce back, and I think they bounced back pretty well.
Absolutely.
And that's a good sign. And they've done that. It's been disappointing at times, some of the losses they've had, but what this team has shown is that they can bounce back with good wins. They've lost 3 times this year. They went on the road and beat a really good Duke team at the time. After one loss, they bounced back and blew USC out.
Yeah, they did.
And Pitt out in back-to-back games after the second loss, and then they bounced back from the Clemson loss with a blowout victory over Wake Forest, where I think they played well.
Right.
So they certainly have shown that. So,
all right. So let's jump into the offense and just a quick reminder to everybody. We will have a mailbag afterwards, but it's only going to be super chats. That's just the nature of the post game show, and that's just kind of how we always do things. So if you're new, that's how we do it. So if you want to get a question in, make sure you put a super chat in, and we'll get after it once we start breaking everything down. So let's jump into the offense, guys, and. Again, they put up 450 yards of offense, 313 through the air, 137 on the ground. You said it right, 7.0 yards per play, which is over their season average. Put 45 points on the board. Those were all offensive points, by the way. None of them were from the defense this time around. And so, overall, you're looking at the stat sheet, you're thinking, it's a pretty good game statistically. And I think you and I were kind of talking about it throughout the game. This is a pretty well called game as well. It just there was some execution issues early on.
Yeah.
But I liked kind of the rhythm and what they were trying to do with the game plan and how they called it most of the time.
Well, just look, there's always going to be that sequence of games you're like, dude, what were you doing? And there's certainly a couple we'll dive into, Vince. But look, it was a lot of the stuff we talked about, right? I mean, even specific plays.
Right.
That we talked about. I mean, in the Wednesday show, I talked about this, and I think Ryan, you and I rehashed it a little bit on Thursday when somebody asked us in one of the mailbags about, what would you guys like to see them do? And, one of the concepts I talked about, I'd love to see like a backside post route to clear things off and then bring that over route from the slot, that deep over. It's exactly what they ran on the Jaden Greathouse touchdown. Get back to the double post looks, which is basically the 2 high look. They didn't do double post, but they ran a version of that where the number 2 guy, instead of running a quick post, actually stopped, hold and say stopped. Safety comes down, which is a great quarters beater, by the way. And Wake was running a bunch of quarters. And then you bang a post route behind it. And even when Sam Hartman was way late and underthrew it, Tobias Merriweather beat the guy so bad that it still went for a touchdown. That's another concept we talked about. They did a sprint out. We talked about move the pocket. Ryan, you and I think you brought that up on Thursday. I talked about that on Wednesday. Move the pocket a little bit. We saw that. We saw bootlegs that were free. We saw a sprint out where it should have been a 28-yard gain. I still don't think that call should have been overturned, but at the very least, I mean, it was a great, well-designed call. Wanted to see a better route there from Chris Tyree, but Ball was a little late, but I mean, that's a tough throw rolling to your left. It's hard to get that throw out on time throwing on the left. So I don't really have a beef with what Sam Hartman did there. It was a good ball. So we saw a pure play action. We saw bootleg play action.
Yeah.
We saw running backs coming free, in the red zone and, out of the backfield. We saw, not so much the mesh stuff, Brian, but more of a pure levels, cross in post, which is one of my favorite concepts, which you have to have with your mesh stuff. And what was that doing? That was getting the crossers more open because you weren't keeping everybody here. And you were forcing the linebackers to get depth because you were running vertical with, two guys from a side. So there were very specific things that we called for, and they tried to push the dang tempo. And then, they
was on the Tyree. Wasn't it on the Tyree?
On the Tyree corner. They wanted to go fast, although I wonder if they wanted to go fast because they saw the replay and thought, that might get overturned. So let's run the play real quick. But they're just a lot, mixed up the run game. The run game, they had some counters and stuff like that, but it was a lot of duo inside zone, just running downhill and attacking downhill. And, I would have still liked to see a little bit more motion and shifting, but there was some of it. They did some of it. They had a couple jet actions that kind of kept Wake Forest eyes occupied. And on the play action pass, I believe they did that for a touchdown. So, just a lot of things we wanted to see, Vince. And here's the bigger thing. There was sequencing going on where you kind of felt like they're building to things. This set up this. They're going here to do this.
Right.
We saw play action on first down. Ryan was complaining about this during the week, rightfully so, about how it's just kind of like first down, run the ball, first down, run the ball. And we saw them throwing the ball on first down a lot more in this game. Now, of course, it didn't always execute it. First play of the game, they're running RPO. Loved it. Chris Tyree drops it. They ran several RPOs in this game, ran a hitch route to Rico Flores for a first down, for a 9-yard gain. That was on a first down. Had a throwaway on a first down, but on the second drive. But again, it was a pass. Come out the next drive, you hit an RPO, little hitch route to Jordan, or out route to Jordan. Was it a now screen or a slide? Little quick throw on first down to Jordan Faison. You come out again later, you run a bootleg, and you hit Eli Raridan for 11 yards on first down. So we saw a lot more. The sprint out play to Chris Tyree, that was on a first down. They ran a tunnel screen to Tyree that didn't go anywhere, but again, it was on first down. So, Ryan, we also saw something that you and I had really hoped we would see, which was a lot more willingness to mix things up. Come out after the turnover, get 13 personnel, run a pure under center play action pass for a touchdown. This is the kind of the offense, and this is what I was most excited by. And again, I don't want to talk big picture about it because I don't want to just see it for one game. I need to now see you string it together for the next couple. But at least for today, this is kind of what I envisioned this offense would look like. And it did.
Yeah. Well, I would say it like this, right? So I've been very critical of the offensive play calling and just kind of the rhythm that they get into and the sequencing that you talked about, right? Because there's some things that I believe in that I think are tangibly very good ways to play offensive football. And I talk about being able to, at times, because I know you're a running football team, but at times you need to throw the ball in early downs to kind of loosen things up, to set things up, to work that sequencing. Early in this game, the first couple drives, I still felt like there was kind of a stick to, we're still going to run. I mean, I was literally joking about it on Twitter, 2nd and 10, let's run the football again. That's just kind of what we do. But there was a point, and I talked about it, I think it was the third drive of the game, where I thought that Jared Parker and this offensive staff got into such a great rhythm offensively where, Brian, it wasn't just mixing up personnel. It wasn't even necessarily the sequencing as well either, but there was a purpose to what you spoke about, right? There was definitely a purpose, but my biggest qualms with this offense has never really been the run game, because I do think that there is some diversity to the run game this year. I do think that they try different things, and I've seen a lot of different types of runs, and we'd have the conversation of running different things to different backs more effectively, all that type of conversation. But my biggest qualm's been the passing game. And today, and I know we're not going to jump too far ahead, but if I'm talking about the offensive sequencing and just the offensive calling in general, the biggest indicator that there was change this week in the offensive play calling and taking a step forward is that for the first time in a few weeks, I felt like there was a passing game that was called with purpose.
Mhm.
There were guys open all day. Yes, Rico Flores had 8 catches for over 100 yards today. But you know what? A lot of that stuff was schemed, man. A lot. He was open a whole lot in this
This was
game.
wide open.
There was
Yeah.
a lot of wide open receivers.
He
in
caught, I
this game.
think, 3 RPO balls.
Yep.
I believe Rico also did on just outs and hitches as well, right?
Jaden Greathouse, obviously on the over that you talked about already, schemed wide open. Tobias Merriweather on that little corner post type of look that he did there for the touchdown, wide open. You had Eli Raritan getting involved in the passing game and him getting some easy targets as well. The offensive play caller today, the coaching staff offensively today, made things easy for the talent on the field. And you know what no one thought at leaving this game today? Oh, Notre Dame's slow. Not one person thinks that because Notre Dame played to their offensive players' strengths today. And it was great for 3 quarters. It was fantastic.
Ryan, what was our second key to the game? It wasn't throw the ball down the field. That came after. It was be aggressive, attack. Right. And I felt like in this game they did that. Even some of the run calls, like Vince, we see them kind of go 21 personnel and use a motion and then quickly gash it with a quick inside zone right up the middle. They converted a third down with that. I believe they one of their early third down conversions. They ran that. They went 11 personnel, spread the field, and got good box number. So they ran an inside zone. Audric runs right up the middle for 9 yards. Right, like that's purpose. That's intention. Hey, let's line up in this on third down because we want to see are they going to widen out because we are a heavy 11 personnel throwing team, and then we can catch them with something. Right. Like we saw stuff like that. And then 13 personnel, play action pass. Like there was an idea of, hey, here's who we are.
Yeah.
We
went against tendency.
We know how they're going to defend us.
Yeah.
Let's have plans. So there was a, like you said, it's 2 words I've probably used more than anything this year, Ryan, and it is urgency and purpose. And today the urgency was better. There's still room to get better there, but there was some of it. But there was purpose to what they were doing offensively. It looked more cohesive. It didn't look like you've got 5 coaches all giving input, and then we're seeing this is what Rudolph likes, this is what Parker likes, this is what, you know what I mean? Like, which is kind of like what I feel like we've seen. This was however they put it together, this was the most cohesive. It all made sense. The run stuff fit with the pass stuff, and the pass stuff fit with the run stuff. In past games, it was just like, this is what they like to do in the run game. This is what they like to do in the pass game. And those 2 things don't really have anything to do with each other. Today, they did. And that was probably my favorite thing about it. I mean, again, because Ryan, what do we say? It's not about the yards. It's not about just winning 45-7. It's how you win offensively. And today, again, one game does not erase everything and is not predictive what's to come. But if they can build on this, that gets me optimistic that they've figured it out and they figured out how to coach together as a group, because I really liked what I saw today. Today.
Yeah. I really think that they played to everyone's strengths today. You know, they didn't ask. There weren't too many instances where I was like, you know what they were trying to do with that player there, that's not built for their skill set. Like that doesn't make sense. Why would you make him do that? I was like, Rico, you were making him separate short to intermediate all day. Awesome. Jaden Greathouse running an over route and getting a little bit of after catch ability.
From the slot.
Tobias Merriweather hitting a deep shot with him. Eli Raritan letting him work up on the play action for a touchdown. Like you were asking guys to do today what I think they're good at. And that's like numero uno for coordinators and coaches, right? Make sure you understand your personnel and then make sure how to use them adequately to be the best version of themselves. And I did think that we saw that today offensively. There's no doubt
I would say they
that.
did the same thing with Audric, Ryan, because I felt like there was a lot more duo and inside zone. Just let him get downhill and read it and then boom, cut it back. I thought Audric, I'll have to go back and watch the offensive line. I thought they were okay. Some good runs, some not good runs. I don't want to dive too much into them because I don't really watch the line a ton live. I'll always watch it out afterwards. But he was reading, Ryan, just the timing of what they were doing duo and inside zone wise. Audric looked comfortable. Even though they didn't run him a ton, he looked comfortable. So even he in the run game, it was kind of like, yeah, you're You're doing things that, like you said, fit what they do. And Tobias on the poster, I mean, he should have had 3 touchdowns in this game. I mean, he was open multiple times down the field. I mean, Vince, you and I saw it on the second drive of the game where they ended up selling for a field goal that missed badly. I mean, he was wide open on. I mean, he had this guy beat by 3 or 4 steps on that, and I don't know where Sam Hartman was throwing that football.
He almost didn't want to throw the football on the touchdown either.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't want to throw it to him. It was wild.
He pumped, and he's like, "Oh God, he's wide open. I can throw it."
You know what I think the problem really is? I feel like every time Spencer Schrader misses a field goal in a game, the offense plays really well. Is that off base? I'm obviously joking, but actually not totally joking.
But you say that, and I'm like, hold on a second. Let me go look at this because let me see something here real quick. So he missed a field goal.
What I'm saying, Vince, is special teams doesn't matter, is what I'm saying.
My buddy Jake Seeley would love you right now because he's a fantasy guy and he fully wants kickers to be banned from football. They missed a field goal against Navy, scored 42. Missed a field goal against North Carolina State, scored 45. Missed a field goal against Central Michigan, scored 41. The only exception to your rule, Ryan, would be Ohio State and Duke. They missed field goals and still didn't play very well. But 4 out of what is that? 1, 2, 4 out of 6 games. Pretty high success rate when the field goal kicker misses a field goal
because he's
found
clutch.
The formula.
He kicks the clutch. He hits the clutch kicks.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, that's the thing, though, guys. Is like you said, Ryan. I think you nailed it. They were scheming guys open today.
Yeah.
Like the concept they ran to Tobias, even though he didn't want to throw him the ball. Like we kind of joke about that. It didn't look like he wanted to throw him the ball. He was staring at him the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he was. That's the play was designed to go to Tobias. It's a quarters beater, Ryan. It's a if you have confidence in your outside receivers, that's a big thing. They look like they had confidence in their outside receivers today, the way they called the game. But if you have confidence in your outside receivers and the team's going to play quarters, and Wake did a lot of quarters against Notre Dame today, especially to the tight end side, that's a great quarters beater because you got a one-on-one. You got to win outside because you're taking the safety out of the equation. If your receiver can beat their corner, that's a great play. And that's what double posts accomplish the same thing. The level stuff, again, it's great quarter. It's a great quarters beater. You take the safety out with the post route, and then you've got the high-low with an under. And so there were things that they did today that were designed to win. And then when Wake would kind of come up and play single high, Notre Dame would have beat him with that wide fade stuff. First couple didn't. First one got a pass interference. Second one, Jordan, it was a bad ball. It was late by Hartman. It was a bad ball. And Hartman and Faison did not compete for the football at all, which has just been a problem in the entire receiving core all year. And then the last one, Angeli perfectly timed and threw, and it went for a touchdown. But like every time they got single high, they went to that and took a shot with that. That's Ryan. That's purpose. That's intention. That's, hey, this is the look we're seeing. Let's go with it. So this is what I wanted to see all year, guys, and even specific concepts that they ran, but just more so, Ryan, have some purpose to what you're doing. Have some rhyme or reason to what you're doing, and coach confidently. You know why I thought the receivers played so confidently today? Because they coached like they believed in them. Hey, guys. We're going to trust in you today. We're going to run a bunch of RPOs. We're going to get you guys in one-on-ones. We're going to ask you guys to go in, and they won. And it was Tobias did it. Faison did it. Greathouse did it. Rico did it. Eli Raridan did it. Like it wasn't just like one guy went off. Like they all did it. And Greathouse was open a couple other more times. Rico was open a couple more times. Like
everywhere.
There was a first down call where they threw a crossing route to Holden Stace, and I'm like, Hartman, dude, like you got Rico wide open on a deep in cut. Like bang that thing. And that's the thing is like I don't think Hartman played as well as his numbers reflected. Right? Not that he didn't play well. He went 21 of 29 for 277 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not that he didn't play well, but like everything was late. But there was multiple guys open constantly. And even on some of his completions, you're like, yeah, it was a nice ball, but you had this guy open for even more.
Right. And that's it's the difference between a good quarterback and an elite quarterback. Or let me take that back. Good quarterback play and elite quarterback play.
Correct.
I don't want to go down that road.
Yes.
But there were plays that he left out there
yes.
that could have been bigger. Okay. And like my buddy had, Sam Hartman to go over 280. So he was pretty upset that he only went 277.
Oh, that's
But
I'd be so mad.
well,
if he would have thrown it
gotten
to Rico on that one instead of throwing to
could've
Holden Stace on the cross, they would have got over 280.
Or not throwing it to Holden Stays on the minus whatever he got on that one,
yeah.
because that was a negative. But it was.
Somebody asked me why would he die for that ball, and I was like, this young player force a habit.
Yeah,
the ball in the air.
Yeah, he's going to get it.
That was a poor decision by Sam. He needs to drive that ball right into Holden Stace's feet. That was a mistake.
Doesn't even give him a chance to catch it. Yeah, doesn't even give him a chance.
Like even the deep out cut that set up Audric Estime's touchdown, that ball was late. If he throws that, but here's the thing that's concerning is like we saw him throw that ball earlier in the year to Chris Tyree and Jaden Greathouse perfectly on time. Remember he broke it down and upon further review, Vince. Yep. That's where you can kind of tell like there's still a little bit something missing there with him, at least early. But I thought as the game wore on, he looked more confident. Yeah. Like Sam was much better from like late second, like even though that last drive didn't end well, you started seeing Sam getting the ball out. He hit that deep into Jaden Greathouse. He hit Rico on a ball. And then he comes out second half and he's just more and more willing to take those shots and get the ball down the field. I just felt like early on he missed some chances, but second, and maybe it was the Tobias touchdown. Maybe that was the thing that sparked him because that came right before the drive for the touchdown, or the drive for the field goal. Excuse me. But whatever the reason is, Vince, the fact of the matter is he looked a lot more comfortable, I thought, in the second half in limited time and was much more aggressive and willing to attack down the field. Yeah. And that's when Notre Dame really, really put that thing away.
Yep. Could not agree more. And he started, he hasn't been good in play action, right? He was good in play action today.
Very.
Different
types.
Yes, I will say that. It was the touchdown pass, right, where he did the nice ball fake and came out of it.
Oh yeah,
that was beautiful.
Yeah,
a beautiful call, beautiful execution, beautiful throw, and a great catch.
I thought he handed the ball off on that one too, man. He fooled me on that one.
I'm pretty sure everybody
handed the ball off.
I told you they were going to throw the ball there, Vince.
I go, no, they're not. Look, they're running it, and he's like, and then you look at me, you go, no, they're not. And I was like, all right, buddy. But no,
buddy.
It's a family show. I thought that he looked uncomfortable in play action in the past, and he did not look uncomfortable today. Mm-hmm. So whatever switch was flipped on that, great. That's awesome because it was very effective in the game today. It was very effective. And like you said, you have to feel, here's the other piece of it, Brian, because I think there's times throughout the season where he hasn't been 100% comfortable behind his offensive line.
No.
And I thought he played today like he was comfortable behind the offensive line, probably second quarter on.
Yes.
He was a little jumpy early back
First
there.
quarter, he did not look comfortable
That's
with
what I'm
anything.
saying.
Yeah.
Agreed. He looked a little jumpy in the pocket. He was kind of bailing a little early, that kind of a thing. But second quarter on, give or take, he looked very comfortable behind his offensive line because you don't turn your back. This is a quarterback. You don't turn your back to the offensive line like that unless you have confidence that you're not going to get drilled. You know what I mean? And he had confidence that he was going to be able to make that fake, do what he needed to do, and run through that play action. So I thought, 3/4 of the game, well, he didn't really play in the fourth quarter, but you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I thought he looked very comfortable and very relaxed, and that's when he started playing better.
He grew into it, yeah.
Yeah, that's when he started playing what we saw in the first few games of the season. Just relaxed, going through his progressions, doing what he needed to do. So hopefully whatever switch has been flipped for him, and he can continue and build on that over the last 2 games of the season.
Ryan, that's for offense and Hartman. That's the thing for me is I hope that this was okay, now go run with this. That's my thing is if they can take what they were kind of second quarter on and build on that with the play calling, the play design, the execution, and then just Sam Hartman looking like the gunslinger he was in September, then we are gonna enjoy how the season finishes. That's gonna be the key.
And sustainability to next season as well. That was my biggest thing watching this game today was I was excited about the offensive play calling, about the sequencing of everything, and I also was excited about the young talent offensively because outside of Audric Estime at the skill position, everybody else that played today is probably back next year, right? You're
Yeah.
like, Bias is a sophomore. You're like, Rico's a freshman. Jaden Greathouse is a freshman. Eli Raritan's a sophomore. Holden Stace is a sophomore. You're like, all these dudes are back next year,
Tyree
man.
better be.
That's
Tyree
The
better
only
be
guy
back.
who may not come back is Tyree. He caught one pass for 0 yards. I mean, I'd like to see him coming back, but the point is Ryan's point is correct. Like all the guys who were making plays today were freshmen or sophomores.
Right.
That in the pass game. In the pass game. That's the thing too, Ryan, though, is like today it looked like they weren't in that because you'd mentioned this during the week. Like Wake's got a couple NFL players in their secondary. And
it didn't look like it today.
None of those guys looked like
Tobias smoked Kalen Carson on that touchdown.
Yeah.
Smoked Kalen.
Yeah, I mean, that ball was landed thrown and he still
player, man.
caught it for a touch. Yes, exactly. No, that was that was again when you coach confidently and you put together game plans to say, hey, we believe in you. Guess what? Your kids are going to look like your kids are going to look like that.
Absolutely,
your kids are going to look like that, and that was fun to see. That was really fun to see. Really fun to see.
Am I the only one that wants Jordan Faison to change his number next year?
Yeah, he's got to be single digit, man. You got to get him down to like 11.
Dude, he's too skinny. The 80 like bends around the side.
It's way too big on him.
It's like they didn't even know who he was. And they're like, let's get this kid a double XL.
Yeah.
And Ben's
Jaden Greathouse needs the 80. Then is what you're saying? Like you can't rock that one. All right.
No, I'm good with him being 19. That's fine.
I don't want any receivers wearing 80s anymore. But that's me.
Yeah, Faison needs to be a single digit, man. And,
the thing we saw from him today too, Vince, I mean, he was another guy that he didn't do a whole lot of like big plays until the touchdown against their second team defense, because I think they had their backup defense in the game as well, at least some of them at the time. But he's playing with some purpose, right? I mean, there's intentionality what he does. He's got to compete for the ball better, right? Like that's the key. He's got to compete for the ball better on that one wide fade, but he did it. I mean, he beat the guy bad on the first one that they got the pass interference, and there was another one where Hartman was super late getting the ball out to him. Like there was the first drive of the game. Tyree drops the RPO, but then they come back on third down and they run across in a deep he ran like an in cut, and he's just the way that they're playing it. Like Sam's just got to come back to that. He just wasn't reading the defense early. But I did think that he kind of settled in and did a better job there. But that's why I kind of say if there would have been a little bit more, just be crisp early. But like you said, you hope that it's like he started holding on to the ball too long at times, but they gave him the pocket. That's the big thing. They gave him a pocket. You know, there's a couple times early they kind of let a little bit of pressure come.
Yeah.
I like to
continue
to be a little bit underwhelming in pass pro, a little bit underwhelming
again. They have really taken a step back in pass pro, but like that's the second drive of the game. Like, but even then, you see the blitzer coming. Sam's got to know I got a 1-on-1 outside. Just let her rip. Just get it out there. And Tobias smoked this guy. Get it out there. Let him go run underneath it. You know, and at the very least, it's a 30+ yard gain if it's not a touchdown. But he got those chances again and he hit those throws. But like the overthrow, I haven't seen Sam Hartman throw a ball that confidently. Even the Tyree touchdown, I still felt like he aimed a little bit. Like he kind of threw it out. It was a little, Tyree had to kind of come back to it just a little bit. But like that was a confident, like early season Sam Hartman, Wake Forest type of throw. That was good to see. And that was his by the way, that was the last ball that Sam Hartman ever will throw in Notre Dame Stadium. Was that 40-yard, 6-yard touchdown to him. And also he threw 4 touchdown passes today, which gets him up to 132 for his career, which now puts him in sole possession of number 4 all time in touchdown passes.
With a great shot of getting to number 3.
2 to pass, right? Only 2 to pass.
2 to tie, 3 to pass. 2 to tie, I think, in the 3 to pass. So I think Graham Harrell has 130. I think Graham Harrell has 134. And then he has 132. Yeah, at least that's what I saw in the stats today. But because he had 128 coming into today, right? Because he had 110 coming into the season, and then he had 18 so far this year. It's 128 through 4 today, right? Because are you saying because they had 5 touchdown passes today, but Angeli had 1 of them.
Yeah, I know.
So
for some reason I thought he was only 1 behind him, but yeah,
I think he's 2. Okay. He was 1 behind the guy that he passed today, coming into the game. So whoever he passed today, he was 1 behind. But either way, it's still it's still certainly within reason, especially if he plays in a bowl game,
yeah.
whether he does or doesn't. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would, because Notre Dame clearly cares about stats, and that's why Audric Estime was in the game late against Pitt. That's why Audric Estime was in the game late today. They were trying to get him over 100 yards, and he did, and they did. Well, so he's now over 1,100 and 13 touchdowns on the season. So he got his 100 today. We don't talk a lot about him. He just kind of does his job. He's not like blowing anybody away. He's not like just running people over. Like you said, Vince said today, he made a lot of business decisions today in the sideline, just dipping out in the sideline. But his vision was good. His feet were good. He was running, just seemed to be fresher today than he had been. So it was good to see him. He's now over 1,100 yards on the season, which is a good day's work. Most yards I think Notre Dame running back has had. I believe Kyron in 2020 might have gotten that, because I know Kyron was over 1,000 twice, but did he go over 1,100?
I don't think he ever went over 1,100.
He was at 1,125 in 2020. Okay. So, yeah, but barely. So, Audric's about 23 from him. And then obviously, but that was in 12 games. Audric's only played 11 so far. And then he was barely over 1,000 next year, 1,005. So, good season. So, Notre Dame has produced a 1,000-yard running back in 3 of the last 4 years. And it should, Tony Jones, if he doesn't get hurt and miss a game, he would have done that the year before. Dexter would have had it the year before that if he doesn't sit out 4 games. And then, of course, when Adams did that in 2017. So, yeah, starting a nice little string of really good running back play. So, did either of you guys spend a lot of time watching the offensive line? Did either of you have a chance to watch much of the two new kids? Ryan, did you? Ryan or Vince? Vince, you want to go and take?
I was just going to say, there were a few times that I kind of zeroed in on them, and in those particular times, I thought they played well. I always like to reserve my judgment on the O-line because because we always do the upon further review, so I get to watch the film and that kind of a thing. I tend to watch outside more. You know what I mean? I tend to watch route concepts and where the ball is going when it's live. When I watch film, I like to watch the O-line. But when I focused on those two guys, like the touchdown run, I believe was one of them, and Ashton Craig took his guy like halfway into the end zone. Like, okay. Yeah. Good feet, that whole thing. So I really liked how he played on that play. So the few times I did watch, I was impressed. Now, there was one play, it was the tackle for loss that we gave up, or that Notre Dame gave up. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Blake just let his guy go on the inside, and he was just chasing, right off the bat. That was not good at all, obviously.
Right. Two new guys. I felt like, I think the biggest compliment you can give to an offensive lineman at times, especially an interior player, is if you don't notice them, that's usually a very good thing. Right? Yeah, that's usually a very good thing. I didn't notice Billy Schrouth all day, and I was like, that's probably a good thing. I'm excited to go back to the film, because that probably means he was assignment sound and pretty solid. At the very least solid,
right? At the very least solid, yeah.
The one thing on Ashton Craig, I saw him give up a little bit of ground and pass protection a couple times. I know he's still a guy that's just kind of developing into his frame a little bit, so I think the power profile is probably still coming. But you're right, Vince. I saw the same rep you're talking about in the end zone where he got after it and won and drove his guy probably 3/4 of the way through the end zone. He got some nice movement on that one.
He's athletic.
That's the kind of thing that I like to see, because he finished. When you're halfway into the end zone, you can stop and you're probably fine. But he finished that kid. And that's the kind of instinct I like in an offensive lineman.
The only offensive lineman I've really noticed for negative reasons was, like, I just felt like Blake was on the ground a lot today, man. Like, it seemed like Blake Fisher was on the ground, but we'll see on, as we watch the film. But that was my only main takeaway of, like, from a negative perspective, offensive line wise, but we'll see.
I'm sorry. It's funny. Got somebody in the show complaining about Missouri. He's like, yeah, but their defense got eviscerated by LSU. And I'm like, who hasn't?
Yeah, I was going to say, they got a pretty good offense.
Someone's scoring offense in the college football. I mean, come on, man.
I think I said something to you guys about that when we were watching the game last week. I texted about their quarterback. It's like, all these Notre Dame fans that want LSU.
I'm fine with that. I mean, because Notre Dame
played.
You're so negative, dude. You're just so negative. So negative.
Their offensive line still isn't very good, and Notre Dame played some pretty good quarterbacks this year.
I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but everything I say, it's about me, and I don't want to have to cover Brian Kelly. So That's their point.
Understandable. Understandable.
All right. Do we have any more to talk about offensively?
Game balls.
Game balls.
Game balls.
Okay.
I think Ryan, I'll let you kick off with this one because I think you pretty much nailed this one during our prediction show on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to Sam for the fact that you threw 4 touchdowns in a game, your last home game at the University of Notre Dame against your former team, right? So that's a cool game ball. I would like to send just another quick shout out, though, just kind of an honorable mention. Rico Flores had a day, man. I felt bad about the fumble because
sure.
that was just an unfortunate play because he had a really good football game overall. I thought Rico was really, really good today, but I will give it to Sam. 4 touchdowns against your former team last home game at Notre Dame in a big victory.
First 100-yard game by a wide receiver since the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma.
Wild.
Who's a guy that's not even on the roster anymore.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, those are obviously great picks, Ryan. I'm going to go off the map here a little bit. I'm going to give one to Eli Raridan because he picks up his first catch in a Notre Dame uniform, I believe, or at least first of the year. Had 3 catches for 39 yards, a great catch on the touchdown.
First of his career, Vince.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the first of his career.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
He caught one before the touchdown, right? He caught a bootleg.
Yes,
right?
he did.
Yeah.
Yep, he sure did. So, I'm gonna throw some love his way because, as you said, Brian, he's probably one of the more athletic kids on the roster, if not the most athletic, based on position.
Vince, jump in. Fastest 10-yard split in the history of tight ends.
In the history, man.
In the history of tight ends.
He's going to set a combine record, man.
There it is. Record. So yeah, I'm going to give mine to Eli.
Yeah, I'm going to honestly. It was kind of hard for me to really do one. I'm going to give mine to Audric. I thought Audric kind of early on ripped off some runs. Like to me, no one guy played great. Like Rico had a 100-yard game, and I'm not taking anything away from what Rico did. He had a great catch on that one out throw that was a little bit far, but I think he was wide open every time he caught the ball. I just thought there were so many guys. I'm going to Audric just more sentimentally, just because it's more of a he's been doing the dirty work all year, and I thought he settled the offense in early. And had some really nice runs early. That 3rd and 2 run he had that got him into field goal range on the first drive that they ended up missing the field goal. He got hit behind the line of scrimmage. He just kept working, and I thought
21 yards.
Yeah, and I thought him kind of playing well early allowed them to kind of help Sam settle in. I thought that was important. Looking at that first couple drives, Audric had some 9 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards. I just thought he kind of helped them settle in. And then, of course, Sam kind of took over. But, they just had guys. I almost kind of want to be lame and, give to Jared Parker just because of the fact that they called a game that just had so many guys open. But, the reason I'm not going to go there and I'm going to ultimately just give it to Audric, but sentimentally, but I think Ryan, your pick is the one that makes the most sense as far as how the game played out, is because there were guys open all game and the quarterback spread the ball around and he got the ball where he needed to go to, not always on time. And, but honestly, I think it was hard to pick a guy because there were so many guys that played well and contributed.
Yeah.
Rico had 100 yards. Audric had 100 yards. Sam went 21 of 29 with 4 touchdowns. Tobias made a big play in the game that kind of, I think it was a 7-7 ball game when he caught that touchdown pass.
Yep.
And smoked the dude. And then Eli Raridan, that was a heck of a catch, by the way. It was a great ball. It was a heck of a catch. So just so many different guys contributed to the game today. And I'm very hard on him because I don't think he's done a good job all year. But the offensive line did what it needed to do today, guys. With 2 starters out, including a 5th-year guy.
And that needs to be remembered.
Starter. Yeah.
The 2 starters out thing needs to be talked about because number one, some of the stuff that they were trying to do at one point, I was like, why are they force feeding the run a little bit with the 2 non-starters in there and some things of that nature. And so that was
a little bit, but I think that's part of it. It helped them settle in a little bit.
No, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. And so I thought overall the offensive line appeared to play well. They gave Sam Hartman time. Like I said, he had confidence in the offensive line second quarter on. And maybe he just needed to see it for himself in the first quarter. I don't know with the 2 new guys, whatever, but he was definitely not comfortable behind the offensive line the last few games. At least he didn't play like he was confident in what was happening in front of him. And so, I give props to the offensive line for that part of it. And let's give props to Coach Rudolph for not getting injured when he got plowed into on the sideline too.
Yeah, he was.
I don't think he saw that one coming.
Still had some athleticism still left in him. Didn't get completely destroyed on that particular play. Yeah. But see, I kind of feel like the play of the offense, guys, signifies the play of the entire team. There was like nobody that was like, wow, that guy was phenomenal today. Like some guys have great numbers. Rico's got great numbers, but he's wide open all the time. Sam has great numbers, but I don't think he played like great.
But isn't that the offense that we kind of envisioned
that's kind of the
at the
point,
beginning of the year?
That's my point.
Spread the ball around. Everybody's making plays. Nobody's going to be an alpha. Like that's what this offense was supposed to be.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Exactly. So that's kind of what I liked about the performance today. Now we'll find out next week if they can keep it going. Right. So we all did game balls, right? So
we did.
Audra got one, Rico got one, Sam got one, right?
Eli.
Okay.
Come on, baby.
So good day of work for the Notre Dame offense.
Absolutely. Let's flip it around. Let's talk a little defense. And again, end of the day, you look at the stat sheet. Defense gives up 232 yards, 98 pass yards, 134 on the ground, and holds Wake Forest to 7 points. That's a pretty good day at the office if you're the defense. I mean, let's call it what it is, folks. That's a good day. So overall, defensively, what? You just laugh at me.
No, you're really good on defense when I'm sitting here cranky about a game in which they gave up 7 points and 232 yards of offense. So I'm like, they didn't play as well as they normally do.
And they did.
That's how high they've set the bar, though, to your point, right? Like they've set the bar very high. I mean, defensively, they've been fantastic this year. So you look at it and just say, like, you know what? They should have shut that team out. Should have had less than 200 yards. That's what
they gave up 232 yards to them. Exactly.
Right.
But Ryan, I think you nailed it. That's how they've set the bar. That when a game like this happens, where you're like, they gave up too many yards on the ground, gave up too many third down conversions. They would have had 10 points if they didn't miss the field goal. I'm like, okay. Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't change the story at all.
And by the way, let me I was getting updates from my son who was at the game, sitting in the stands, and every kick that was made, he had a comment about whether it was a kickoff, a field goal, whatever. That field goal wasn't going in regardless of whether Notre Dame blocked it or not.
No.
There was, they're lucky that it didn't get blocked by the head of an offensive lineman. Like it was
I saw two of the ugliest field goals of the season today.
It was bad. Because it was a bad kick.
Spencer Schrader's miss was also pretty terrible.
Oh, he pushed it so far to the right. I mean, it was just not good. So,
yeah.
But again, their kicker wasn't very good, but Notre Dame still got a hand on it. They still had some penetration into the line. Like, that's fantastic. That's great. And all.
Because they also might have had a shot to block it if it wasn't so bad because they got a really good push. Right?
100%.
But the point is, let's say they got it. Let's say they got the field goal. So they had 232 yards of offense and 10 points. And 4.1, but that's the whole point. I didn't like what I saw from the defense today overall. I didn't, because my expectations are such that I just kind of expect them to dominate even more when they play a team this bad. But at the end of the day, it's like, but that's exactly what they did. They did dominate that team, really, when you think about it. I mean, Wake had 2 scoring drives. That's it.
My biggest qualms with the defense, because saw like the first 2 drives of the game. The defense was like lights out early.
Not minus 7 yards or something.
Minus 5 the first 2 drives.
Yeah.
After the first 2 drives, I was like, dude, this is going to be an ugly game for Wake Forest offensively. Ugly. And then you know what they did? They pulled the trick plays out of their bag, right? You had the reverse pass.
And there's only so many of those in the arsenal, man.
Well, but Vince, my point was, and this might be a little bit to like galaxy brain a little bit here, but if I'm Notre Dame, knowing that Wake Forest is in a desperation mode of trying to beat you in this game, I have to think that you come into this game being like, hey, they're probably going to pull the kitchen sink here, right? Like they're going to throw a lot of stuff at the wall. And that was my only, I guess, criticism of the defense early was like, you should probably had more awareness that like, they're probably going to throw something at you at some point, right? And you weren't prepared enough for that part of it. But overall, I mean, you let up less than 250 yards. You only let up 7 points.
Yeah.
You showed why you have been one of the best defenses in college football this year throughout the most of the year, because you've raised the floor.
What's our issue, Vince? They didn't dominate as much as they should have.
Right. Oh, it's what, first world problems, isn't that what they say? Like
exactly.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And I want to build off what Ryan said. they pulled those trick plays out of their bag when it was 7-0. Like it was early in the game.
They were minus.
Right.
They were in the
Yes.
negatives in total.
Right.
It was
offense.
awful.
It was early in the game that they're like, we need to just dig deep to move the football at this point. And so from a gameplay standpoint, you're like, okay, and I was going to say something to you actually when it happened. It's like they moved the ball on trick plays and I think a penalty. Like that's what got because it was the Benjamin Morrison, pass interference.
That was a bad call.
It was a bad call. And then they had 2 trick plays, and it's like, okay, I mean, that's not going to last. That's not a sustainable way to run your offense.
Yeah.
Obviously, my biggest issue with the defense was honestly, it was linebacker play. He didn't play very well.
Linebacker
in the
play
run game.
in the
Vipers
were a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Today.
Yes, they were.
Viper
Setting the edge was not good.
Yes, Jordan Patojo, people in the chat are talking about it. He really struggled. And what I said, Vince, at times I felt like we were watching the 2022 defense. That was my biggest beef from today.
Yeah.
Was, like the one scramble on third down. Jordan Patojo just goes super high. There's no need for that. It's third down. You got a mobile quarterback. There's no need to go that high. You're not going to get to the quarterback going that high. Guy just steps in. It's about the easiest third down conversion he's ever going to make in his life. Just not setting the edge. I thought the D tackles were early on, against the outside. They were good when Wake tried to run misdirection or inside zone. Notre Dame destroyed them.
Yeah.
Wake was able to find the outside zone stuff, and they were able to get kind of that fast swipe stuff going. That's where they hurt Notre Dame. I mean, the touchdown run was an outside zone. Yeah. And it was just a comedy of it was a compilation of mistakes. It was
a little comedy in there.
It was the Vipers not setting the edge.
Yeah.
It was like Jordan Patojo had the issues. Junior Tuilamaka had those issues. It was the defensive tackles kind of losing gap integrity. I thought just kind of getting worked a little too far outside.
On the touchdown, it was like you said, it was outside zone, and the cut actually came underneath of Riley Mills because Riley just got kind of displaced outside for whatever
reason. And that happened to Howard Cross in the game as well on another outside run where he just kind of got ridden way out. And then on the one touchdown run, DJ Brown has a bad run fit. He comes inside. He's got to fit outside, funnel that thing back inside. Yeah. There's no need for that. And the linebacker play too, Ryan. That's what I wanted to ask you about because I said to Vince probably how many times did I say this to you during the game, Vince? Like 10, 12? I was like, I swear I'm watching the 2022 linebackers again. Just not decisive, just like magnets to blocks in this game. And it was Jack Kaiser, it was Marist.
It was all JD, 3 of them. It was all 3 of them.
JD had the most plays in the game, but even he was they just didn't look comfortable with what they were. They just weren't as good as they've been all year. This was not a good performance.
They were not. I thought Kaiser was okay. I thought that JD and Marist both were well below average. I thought they played poorly today. So I mean, JD missed a tackle on that. They tried to do like another throwback, like off the little screen. He missed a tackle there. He missed another tackle for I think like a 14-yard gain for Ellison at some point in that game as well. Marist is just, man, some games I feel like his instincts are kind of taking a step, and then other games it's just like I don't think he sees the game very well. And unfortunately, today was another Marist game where it's just like I don't think he sees the game very well. Like
Ryan, he's a Butkus Award semifinalist.
On that touchdown run too that I talked about, Riley Mills getting displaced. JD Bertrand just did not even read that play at all. Like didn't move, did not move. It didn't make any sense. So I think that JD played poor today. I think Marist played poor today. And I think Kaiser was fine. He was fine when he played. He was fine.
It looked like he was reading the quarterback on that play, Ryan, which wouldn't make any sense. He's the middle linebacker. Like it would be fine if like the Will was reading it that way, so he didn't get like backside A gap or something like that. But it was like it just didn't make any sense. It was really frustrating to see that. And then they just over pursued a couple times, like that one now screen where they were going to kind of throw it back, and then they just let the guy run for 20 yards and. That was just like, guys, close that play out. I mean,
who did look pretty good late though, man, even in the plays where he clearly made mistakes just off of being athletic, but Drake Bowen had some flashes, man, as he always did. Even that one, I think it was like second and 12 or third and 12. He tried to sneak underneath the block and tried to make a play in the backfield and he didn't end up making the play. But I'm like, least he was aggressive, man. Like I
Yeah.
could work with that. I could make with fast mistakes.
Well,
I could work with that
And
stuff.
that's the thing about when the entire second defense was in, the defense did move at a faster pace. You know what I mean? And they weren't
are
always
so
in the
much-
right
yes,
spot. They weren't
yes,
always in the right spot,
yes.
but they were flying around the field. And it was
they
like,
got team
okay.
speed, Vince. I mean, there were a few times
Oh,
like working to the perimeter where I'm like, there was one where it was Javante Jean-Baptiste and it was Jordan Botelho working at the perimeter for one, where I was just like, dude, that's some speed
Yeah.
right there, man. Like that was some speed. And then Jack Kaiser closed on the quarterback on a scramble on one. He only got 1 yard and they hit him going out of bounds. I was like, for a linebacker room and a defense that people claim are slow at times, I'm just like, I'm seeing guys just absolutely hawk dudes down at the perimeter,
which they're
but
not.
whatever.
Which they're not. Well, to your point, Vince, I did think when the second team linebackers got in, you saw that there's even a different gear even there.
Yeah.
Like there was a play, they ran a bootleg, and this was probably my favorite defensive play of the game because of who did it. But like Jalen C, we all know he's a phenomenal, freaky athlete. He's very twitchy, but he just doesn't always make good reads. They ran a bootleg and tried to sneak it back out of the backfield, and Jalen read it perfectly and just ate it up. Ate it up and forced an incomplete pass. And you're like, okay, that's a good sign because he just moves. And yes, he didn't bite inside, but then he's just so fast that he recovered. He read it perfectly and then was all over it. So to see him in the game as well, making plays, but yeah, to see Drake Bowen out there to me was a very good sign. Very good sign. Cause like you said, Ryan, we talk about this all the time and it's hard to explain, but it's just, you just watch the game sometimes and you're like, that dude moves different. Right. When you watch Christian Gray, it's almost hard to tell if you're watching him or Benjamin Morrison. It's just
that
really
third
hard
down
to tell
stop he had in the open field too, because Christian Gray's game is being a twitchy and very instinctive football player, but like still developing core strength and just his body in general. But he like the wood on that one play. I was like, all right, Christian Gray. All right, sir. I see you, man. I see you.
It's funny. That play is literally on my TV right now, Ryan. But the thing I liked about it was he did not commit to that till he saw the quarterback start to throw. He stayed back, didn't bite up downhill. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you see that guy, don't overreact. You stay in your zone. But as soon as the quarterback went here, he planted and exploded to the football. And you're like, yeah, that guy's got
he's going to be good, man. He's going to be a very good player.
Yes. That was nice to see. That was very nice to see. So yeah, that group of young players is really got some explosiveness to them.
Absolutely.
Not that the veteran guys don't, but
it's a bit of a different gear though. I mean, we can still appreciate what they're doing right now with the guys that are on the field because it's a really good defense. But we can also appreciate the fact that, Marcus Freeman and company have really upped the game on the recruiting level on the defensive side of the football, and that's about to come to fruition in 24. I mean, you're going to start seeing the fruits of that labor because these guys are going to now start hitting the field.
Vince, just start waiting until you start seeing more and more of the 2022, 2023 kids next year. And then also the 2024 class, Brian, we've talked a ton about the recruiting class that's coming in.
Yeah.
There's some development needs to happen with a few of those guys, but that group as a whole can run. They can run. Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot of faith in Notre Dame's defense over the next X years, right? Yes. As long as things stay the way they are, the defense is going to be really, really good. It just is. And, the question marks on the other side of the ball and what they're going to be able to put together. I'm not questioning the talent level. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just, what is it going to look like? And are they going to be able to be the offense that they need to be for this to be a championship level program?
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in where the defense is going. A lot of faith, especially if they can retain Al Golden moving forward. And I know I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit, but
I mean that's a different conversation for a different day. But the one thing I would say, Vince, is that's the one side of the ball where I'm confident will always be good no matter who the coordinator is, because that's the side where you feel like Marcus Freeman that's going to be his baby.
Yeah.
That's
a good point.
Because remember, this is a defense too that when he was a defensive coordinator in 2021, and I would argue did not have, with all due respect to, actually, no, because Kyle Hamilton wasn't playing at the time. Remember, Kyle Hamilton didn't play down the stretch. But I just remember watching that defense down the stretch in 2021, and it was like, this defense is just, they're a little different.
Right.
You know, like that's just the way they're playing there. I mean, the last 4 games, the regular season, they held their opponents to 184, 278, 224, and 227. You know, and that was after just a lot of up and down. You know, but like you started to see the light kind of go on a little bit. And my big takeaway, we talked about some things we didn't like, you know, linebacker play and all that. But the big thing for me is this has been one of a consistent things is their run defense just is not dominant. It has its moments, but it's just not dominant like it should be. And I'm, you know, I think Ryan, that'll be something that you and I are going to spend the offseason just really diving into film study wise, just figure out like what's going on, because I don't know that I can necessarily put my finger on it because they're not bad at all. They're not bad. They're just
I
not
think
dominant like they should.
I think you already hit on part of it, though. I mean, what position did you say was not very good today? It was the linebacker position, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's a big part of it. Is that
Yeah.
even the linebackers have been a lot better than this year than they were in 2022, but it's still been inconsistent, right? Like, it
Yeah.
hasn't been great every single game. And I think when it's volatile, I
Yeah.
think that hurts run defense.
And the
obviously,
Viper
'cause that's
position as
consistency.
well. That's the other thing that I think hurts them a little bit as well. I just really want to study it and break it down. And it just seems like there's just like one guy here and one guy there, and it's just always like one guy not doing what he's supposed to do. But again, we're complaining about a team that gave up 134 rushing yards and 3.7 yards per
Right.
carry against a Wake Forest team that, Ryan, you know, you and I said coming in, they've got some talent at running back, you know, but it wasn't that the talent took over today. You know, like the touchdown run, it didn't take a talented running back to make that run. It was just read it, because they just played it poorly. So, you know, I think the quarterback that played today impacted them a little bit.
Sure.
This kid made his first start. He's more of a mobile runner type of guy, where Griffiths is not. And I wonder if that factored into it as a little bit as well. I don't know.
It's probably part of it. I would say it's
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
I would agree.
But end of the day, guys, 232 yards of offense and 7 points. I'm sure Al Golden and Marcus Freeman will take that kind of off performance any day.
Oh,
of the
for
week.
sure. Like that's,
You know
how you have the goal board in the locker room. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of helmets up on the
Yeah.
defensive side of the goal board. You know what I mean? Like they hit a lot of the things that they want. They block the kick. You know, and it's special teams, I guess, technically. But like a lot of the things that they did, you know, you held a team to they held them to under 100 yards throwing the football.
Hey,
like in today's
this
game,
pass defense is ridiculous.
like in today's
Vince.
game, that is not an easy thing to do.
Vince, fantasy football tells me that block kicks are a part of defensive scoring. So
There you go.
You are right there, man. You're good there.
There you go.
Something
There you
else
go.
too, Vince. You kind of talked about that though a little bit. There weren't a lot of guys open. Like where you're like, man, if that
absolutely.
quarterback would have read the play out, that guy was open. Like it wasn't like they only threw for 98 yards because they had their second quarterback in or whatever.
Right.
And there just weren't guys coming open.
Right.
They were pretty disciplined today. I thought there was a couple times like Wake ran some bunch stuff with vertical releases that I thought, oh, this is, and then like Notre Dame just kind of played it correctly. And there's one time I was like, oh shoot, I don't think Thomas Harper, like he was just the way he was dropping, it's like he was going to run past the guy, but he bellied in front of it and just took it away. And you're just like, okay, that's how you play it, right? Like, but it's not even like, gee, if the pressure, because there's been a couple games early in the year where we're like, man, if the pressure doesn't get to the quarterback, he had a couple guys open. That wasn't the case today. It was just there was nobody open.
And I noticed that a lot. Like he was running for his life. There were a couple of times where he got flushed, or it was actually a boot, and there was only like a 2-man route. You're not going to get very far running a 2-man route against this secondary. I mean, and it was covered like a blanket, and so he had nowhere to go with the football. Like the only times where there was really anything to go to in the passing game is when Notre Dame was playing loose and they were letting some underneath things kind of develop and just keeping it in front of them, right? It was the old Mike Diaco, you know, let's just keep everything in front of us.
Bob.
And I'm sorry, you're right. Bob Diaco. I don't know where Mike came from. But it was this, hey, keep it in front, go rally to the football, make a play. That wasn't the game plan, but that was how some of those plays, you know, kind of, you know, played out, right? So the secondary, like, come on, guys, you can't run 2-man routes against the secondary. It's not going to work out too well for you.
I'm watching the last couple minutes of the game, guys, because I left. We were trying to get back for the show.
Yeah, we left after the first.
And they snapped the ball just under a minute left, and Devin Houston came off, engaged the guard, locked them out, and then got off to the running back for like a 1 yard gain. I'm like, okay, like
We,
he had
and we
3
never
freshmen
talk
on the
about
field.
him.
Yeah, never
talk
talk
about him.
about him. He was a
Yeah.
4-star kid, Ryan. You and I both graded
Yep.
him as a 4-star kid.
Yeah.
I don't remember where you had him. I had him as a top 150 caliber kid. You know, like he's a really
I
good
think I was in
football
the
player.
same ballpark. I think
Yeah,
I was
but
in
you
the
got
same ballpark.
him and Armel and Tyson Ford and
Oh, was
Brendan
Armel
Vernon.
on the field?
Yeah,
Armel was on the
93.
field too?
93.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good
that
for
last
him.
series. Yeah.
That kid's a
Yep.
freak. Hopefully
Yeah.
he's developing well. Yep.
So yeah, it was good to see those guys. It was good to see those guys. But yeah, overall, guys, good day. It was a good day of work for Notre Dame. Good day of work. Not
Game
the best
balls.
defensive performance, but got the job done against some pretty bad offense.
Let's go game balls. Defense, fellas.
Can I
Ryan,
start?
what do you got?
Go ahead, Ryan. Yeah.
Javonte Jean-Baptiste is my guy today. I thought he was very good setting the edge. I thought he was disruptive. I know he had a sack at one point, and he blocked the field goal as well. So
He
I
had
thought
1.5
Javonte
tackles
was
for loss too,
fantastic.
Ryan, which means he made another play in the backfield in the run game as well. Yeah.
You
I
know,
thought he's been good every week, man. Like he just stacks
Yes.
good weeks. The
He's been
box
better.
score doesn't always tell
Yeah.
it, but like he is a good player. He's just a good player.
he's been better than I anticipated when he got here. I thought he'd be kind of battling for maybe some playing time or whatever, and he has been one of the best edge guys out there that Notre Dame has had. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
The craziest part about Javonte Jean-Baptiste is he's so different than what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
He's a grinder, man. Like he's a
Yes.
big end, physical, relentless dude. And I did not necessarily think that was what he was going to be coming from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And he's played fantastically for Notre Dame. Unsung hero of this defense.
And I have to say, I mean, his energy is infectious, number one. Like sometimes it's annoying when some players do it, but for whatever reason, I like when he does. He's always trying to get the crowd going. Like he's got, has his arms going. Like, and I don't think some of that comes off on TV, right? But he feeds off that energy, and he's just a high energy guy. Like I feel like if he was around for multiple years, he'd have a shot at being a captain. Like that's the kind of energy that he gives me. I can see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if he has any eligibility left.
He doesn't. He's done after this, but
so he's going to be a tough one to lose. And I didn't think I would feel that way after 11 games. I really didn't. But I've really enjoyed watching him play. That was a great pickup by Notre Dame. That was a great pickup.
He's going to stick in the NFL for like 7 years, and he's never going to be like a dude in the NFL, but it's just going to be like just a solid.
He's going to collect paychecks,
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Just a couple more things, guys. Seeing a Don Schuler on the field, he really is Ryan. He's a guy that to me, whenever I've watched a Don play this year, he moves faster than I thought he was going to move. He really covers a lot of ground. Just saw Eddie Schuyler on the field. Him and Leo and Eddie Schuyler, a pair of brothers, are on the football team. That's part of the overall strength of the Notre Dame walk-on situation. Eddie Schuyler and Leo Schuyler in high school were really good freaking football players. Just watching them on the field, just like there's some really talented young players. But Don Schuler is a guy that moves a little differently than I thought he was going to move.
Eddie does a nice work with the media
staff
over there too.
He does.
Work there.
Yes,
but Don, man, I'm telling you, I saw him in person, obviously down in San Antonio. First time seeing him in person. That kid is built like a brick. You know what house? Like he is physically put together.
He looks like a grown up. Like he looks like a 20-something-year-old kid physically. Right. But Ryan, we knew that we thought he was going to come in to be a downhill thumper. But like watching him cover ground, he moves a lot faster and more explosively than I thought he was going to move.
His time will come at Notre Dame. I think he's going to be a really good player for Notre Dame.
He's the guy that's going to be on my watch out for him in the spring with DJ Brown gone, as being that guy that steps him and Antonio Carter battling for that next safety role. I can see that.
I've also heard that Adon Schuler is thriving in school right now. So a lot of good reports on him right now.
Shocker. Right? Yeah, anyone that's ever met the Schuler family is going to be surprised for 0 seconds that Adon Schuler is thriving in the classroom.
Yeah. Apparently the youngest, or not, I don't actually know if he's the youngest, but his younger brother Dante is a freshman in high school this year and is playing on varsity as a freshman.
At Irvington?
So, yep.
That's a good football program.
It is.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Yeah. So, Vince, did you have? I'm with Ryan. Javonte Jean-Baptiste. I mean, Howard Cross had good numbers, 9 tackles, but I just felt like he had a lot of next guy in. I didn't think he played. I didn't think he Riley had a couple big plays. Howard cut a couple big plays, but overall, I didn't think he had great.
There were too many times where the interior got pushed around for my liking. That's what I'll say on that
Yeah.
one. And honestly, when you give up over 100 yards on the ground, some of that has to have
To this
do with the
team.
defensive line. Like that, you've got to stand your ground a little bit better. So, you know who I'm going to go with, and I feel like everybody should give a different game ball. I'm just saying. I'm going with
Why?
because man, you got to spread the wealth.
So
a little bit.
Vince, if a quarterback for Notre Dame wins a big game and he throws 8 touchdowns, I'm supposed to pick somebody else different because I can't pick the guy that threw 8
because
touchdowns?
Ryan went third.
Hey,
That's
we
silly,
let you
man.
go first. You get the easy picks. It's those of us that go later. We gotta, think outside the box a little bit. All
Well,
right?
Don't make the rules
I'm
here,
the guy
so
that signs the
you'll make the
paychecks
rules.
to say that you're allowed to pick the
Well,
same
you can
guy
pick
if you
whoever
want
you
to.
want. I'm begging Ryan over here. Okay. All right. Here's who I'm gonna go with, and this is a little bit off the beaten path, and I don't care. They gave up 98 yards through the air. I think Thomas Harper played really well
Yes, he did.
today. And he played
should,
really well.
he
in
might have
pass
got it
coverage.
if he'd have picked that ball off that he stepped in front of.
Yeah.
He had two
No.
plays that I thought he had a shot to pick off.
Did he
today.
step in front of one? Because I thought because that was
You're thinking of one with Clarence Lewis late?
yeah, I was thinking about
No,
Clarence
there
Lewis.
was a couple
different
earlier
one?
in the game that Thomas had a chance to pick off.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He played really well.
I thought Harper played really, really
Yeah.
well, and I wanted to give him some
He had
love.
3 tackles and a tackles for loss as well, Vince,
Yeah.
to go with the one recorded breakup. So yes, he played well. I thought both corners played well. I thought the pass interference against Benjamin Morrison was BS. I thought both the starters played well. They did have there was one blown coverage on they brought a corner fire, and the guy that dropped didn't get underneath the comeback. There's a couple things like that. But overall, I thought the pass coverage was excellent. But no, I like the Thomas Harper one. I thought they did a pretty good job. If he would have made that play on the screen that was going to be a throwback, he was one of the guys that was there that didn't make that play. If he would have made that play,
guys there, come on.
If he would have made that play, Vince, then I think I could be even more on board with your decision to.
Fair enough,
because then they get no points, right? If he makes that play there, they get no points.
That's true because he
right?
squeaked through to get.
But yes, Thomas Harper is another guy. He had a couple plays where he got beat against Ohio State. But he's been very, very steady and solid for the Notre Dame this year. He really has.
He's another guy, which I think that you don't notice him a lot, which is also a very good thing for a nickel, right?
Yeah,
it's like that means he's probably not giving up much, which is fantastic.
Right. It was a huge transfer portal pickup. I mean, honestly, it was a huge, huge pickup for Notre Dame because him and Jean-Baptiste have played really, really steady and really, really well.
And neither one of those, Vince, were guys that people were like overly excited about, right? They're like, oh,
well, yeah, because everything was overshadowed by Hartman, obviously, from a portal standpoint, right? Exactly. Which I get. He's the quarterback. I get it. But I mean, arguably, those two have been steadier and better. Arguably, make that.
I mean, if you look at like his numbers in the season, according to Pro Football Focus, he's got 7 hurries, he's got 14 run stops. Just for context, he had 12 the last 2 years combined. He's given up fewer yards per catch last year than he did last year at Oklahoma State. He's given up 204 receiving yards this year and 22 completions. And last year he gave up 185 passing yards and 9.7 per completion. But last year he only played 8 games because he got hurt. So, so he's been good. He's been good for Notre Dame. He had a good day today. So, yeah. Yep, good day. So game balls, we're good there, Vince.
Yeah, I think so.
Special teams, we want to.
Javonte Jean-Baptiste, field goal block. There it is. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, you already said, Ryan. You already just said that field goal block is considered part of the defense. So you can't.
This is a great game where all 3 phases are interconnected, man. So it all counts.
Yeah.
All counts.
Yeah.
Who recovered the onside kick? Was it Jaden Mickey that almost hit it early and he jumped out of the way?
DJ Brown.
Was it Jaden Mickey? No. Brown did both. Brown's the one that jumped out of the way
because he jumped out of the way and then fell on it.
Because I saw a single-digit number guy kind of duck out of the way of the ball because I thought it looked like he was like going to grab it, but he realized it wasn't there yet, and then he kind of ducked. Okay, so that was DJ.
Yep.
Yeah. If Spencer Schrader hadn't just kicked, I mean, he wasn't even that field goal wasn't even close.
Oh, he pushed it hard.
Like it wasn't even close.
No, it was
really good onside though. Really good onside kick.
Yeah,
it was a really good on. That's those aren't easy to do, obviously.
It was.
I thought the special teams played well. I still don't like the thought process behind the way they do kickoffs. I don't like it
just
at
kick
all.
It out of the end zone.
I don't like. You've got one of the strongest. Like we've heard it 1,000 times, right? Schrader's got the strongest leg. Like kick it out of the back of the end zone, make them start at
Yeah.
the 25. Because every time they kick it short of the end zone, whether it's a squib, whether it's a line drive, whether it hangs in the air for 17 seconds, they always get it right around the 25. Like, how about we take, like, this offense for Wake Forest was god awful. And I will give credit. Brian's the one that said this in the press box. He said it to me. Their offense is terrible. Why are you giving them an opportunity to return a kick? Just put it out of the back.
And
of the
your
end
defense
zone.
is really good.
Right.
Why even run the risk of, like, maybe they
makes
crease a
zero
guy
sense. It makes zero sense to me the way they do it. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah. Jadarian Price is gonna the kick return against USC is not going to be his last kick return as long as he remains as Notre Dame's primary kick returner, because
he almost broke another one today.
Yeah, he's had like 3 other ones this year. He's like one dude away from taking one to the house. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a special team. I don't have a special teams game.
No, punting, there was one bad punt in my opinion, went to the 20. Like, you needed to get at least another 10 yards on that.
27 yards. It was not
not great. You know,
he's been solid this year, but he's got a lot of potential to me. Like, when he's on, he's really on. The redshirt freshman kid was hurt a lot last year.
Right, for sure.
He's going to be a good one. He's going to be a really good one.
No, I agree. I completely agree. Yep. So,
and how about the walk-on kid coming in at the end, guys, and drilling that PAT?
Oh, baby.
Let's get a love to
who was it? What's his name? I don't even know.
I forget how to pronounce his last name, but his first name, but it's like Diomede is his first name.
Marcello or something like that.
He's a guy that he's a walk-on, but Notre Dame.
He's a soccer player.
And he was recruited to Notre Dame. I don't know that he's a soccer player. He was recruited as a walk-on kicker. He's a freshman.
Okay.
But he was recruited to be a kicker for them. His Marcello is his name. He's a true freshman. Correct. He went to Glenbard West. So he was a high school teammate of Christopher Tarrick, but he was actually committed to Notre Dame, I believe, before Christopher Tarrick, because he committed early on as a walk-on kicker. So, like, they recruited him, like, they like him, and he came in and drilled it. And Vince, you and I talked about him during fall camp. We're like, this kid's got a nice leg.
Yeah.
So you hopefully he can kind of build on that and be a guy that maybe they don't have to go give a scholarship to a transfer again. Because I know that's the hope. That's the hope, is that one of these walk-on kids becomes that guy. I mean, that's what they're hoping to do.
For sure. But that's what, the special teams coach from Notre Dame, when we went to the specialist camp or whatever, he's like, this is Marty Biaggi. He's like, this is kind of how D1 kicking is now. It's like that you are probably not going to get a D1 scholarship right out of the Power
unless
5
you're like
right out of the gate.
Unless you're like a dude, yeah.
You're going to have to go to a Central Florida. You're going to have to go to a Southern Alabama or whatever, prove that you can do it in games, and then transfer portal to a Power 5. Like, that's just the way things are trending for special teams. And he's like, and everybody's in there. Obviously, he's a high school kid. And they're like, and it sucks for you guys, but that's what's happening right now. He's like, I'm just being honest with you. We're not even looking at the high school level very much anymore. Now, if a kid absolutely pops, like, this kid's pretty good. The kid that came in and kicked the PAT, he's a walk-on. He's paying $75,000 a year to go to Notre Dame to be a walk-on on the football team, right? And so, that's the world of specialists now. Like, you got to go low level and then transfer up. It's unfortunately the way things are going. So hopefully this kid can pop and he can end up being the kicker at Notre Dame. I think that'd be awesome. And I thought, he, unlike some of the people in the press that didn't think he was going to be able to hit a 20-yard PAT, he nailed it right down the middle.
Yes.
Right down the middle.
Yes, he did. So that's it for this part of the show, guys. We have a few super chats we're going to get to. Not a lot for this game, but we do have a few. But before we do, guys, I just want to thank everybody for just being with us tonight. So obviously it was a very, very good win for Notre Dame, a well-earned win for Notre Dame, and 8-3. Now they just got to keep it rolling. 2 more. Yep. We got to get 2 more and get to 10. That's going to be the big key. It's going to be the big key. But also, Vince, we're going to just make the announcement now about next week.
Yeah, I think we should. You and I kind of talked about it.
So we are going to do a live show next week during the Stanford game. So we will go live. Ryan, we'll see if you're able to or not. If not, I mean, we'll get you on afterwards, but we are going to go live. I know a lot of people have requested that and wanted that. And I did
go ahead and
fork up the extra money to get Pac-12 Network. So we will do a game watch next week. So we'll go live when Notre Dame, at the start of the game. and do sort of like we did last year for USC. So it'll be just like that, and we'll have to work on getting synchronized and all that other good stuff. But we are going to have a live game watch next week for the Notre Dame Stanford game. So because I'm not going out to California. And I'm not saying
LA
outside of California. No, it'd be near San Francisco is where.
Oh, that's true. I'm sorry. You said USC, and that's where I was thinking. They're obviously playing Stanford.
Yep. No. Like we did last year for the USC game. So I have a feeling this game's going to be a little bit different than last year's game. But we do have some super chats. But before we get to super chats, folks, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast, give us a 5-star review if you're listening via podcast platform. We greatly appreciate it. And if you have not done so, what are you waiting on? Sign up for the message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com.
All right, we got a few super chats to get to, Brian. So you pull them up. Who's reading, me or you, Ryan? I guess
that's going to be you. Ryan has to go.
Okay,
so Ryan told me before we got started that he was going to have to bail. He has a sick baby.
Oh man,
Raina has
kind of outlined everything that's going on at home. Man,
his wife was kind enough to let him be here for the post game show. Awesome. But he told me he was going to have to bail before we started the super chats. But
yeah,
he was excited about the win. He wanted to be part of. I was like, dude, you don't got to worry about being on the show. But he was fired up about the win. So he was on. So we appreciate him being on.
He's been experiencing all the highs of being a parent. I've seen some of the selfies with his daughter and having a great time. He's definitely feeling the lows of being a parent with all the sickness that's going around in his house. It's like, dang man, it stinks. So yeah. Life of a parent, right? So here we go. Let's do these super chats. Oh, my favorite. This is top for me. I love this this name here. Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts. It's one of my favorites. Thanks for the super chat. Nothing in life is guaranteed. Today, Irish get the big W, and it's okay to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Happy for the seniors. Go Irish. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Look, I understand the frustration that people have with how certain parts of the season have gone. It's totally fair. But we're fans, and it's okay to still feel a certain way about what we've seen in the past and be able to say, hey, look, I'll worry about that tomorrow. Today, I'm going to enjoy this win because it was a well-earned win. It was look, is Wake very good? No, we talked about that before the game, but they did what a good team is supposed to do to a bad team.
Right.
They whooped their butts and handled business and got a big win. Got some young guys in the field and got some young guys some action, and we're going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. It was a good win.
Absolutely.
It was a good win. So appreciate that positivity. And my guy Iden has several super chats, Vince. So I see 3 from him. So I'm just going to do his 3 right in a row. So we'll do his next 3.
All right, Iden, thank you so much for the super chats, plural. Another W. It's like the staff is listening to IB. I know you say they don't, but everything you guys say actually works. Love to see the ball in the air.
It's funny, Vince, because we were talking about this. Was it me and you, or was it me and my buddy Chamgel? And like it might have been both. I was like, dude, literally the exact stuff that I was saying we needed to see on Wednesday's show, we saw today. Now, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Notre Dame, that show would have been like either right before their Wednesday practice started. There's no way they listened to our show. Change the practice plan or just add stuff in on Thursday. What it means is that's what smart football coaches do. That's what coaches who are confident in their players do. That's stuff that works, and especially against a quarters team like Wake Forest. Now they mixed up they went single high sometimes, Vince, and in quarters other times, but they're a team that likes to do a lot of stuff out of quarters with 2 safeties. And Notre Dame had a good game plan for it. They did. And so, I mean, I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you, this is what happens when they listen to us. And that's true. Right? But the listening to us is more about, this is stuff that works. This is what aggressive, confident coaching staffs do that are looking to, because it's more about the philosophy than the specifics of the play calls. It's more about the philosophy. And it's who I believe Jared Parker wants to be. Just we haven't always seen it.
Hey, he said in his press conference that they listen and they watch. So I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm joking.
I can assure you that Jared Parker is not listening to what people are saying on social media and on Twitter. I can assure you of that.
Oh, I know.
Assure you of that. Now, he gives 0. Now, does that mean that the play action stuff is? But again, Wake runs a different defense. Wake runs a quarters defense. One thing that's great against quarters defenses, play action.
Right.
I mean, so we don't know that it was different from what they would. I mean, if they came out and played a defense like Clemson did, would we have seen it? I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
But I do know that it was good to see. And I don't really care. I do know that it was good to see.
Another one. Thanks for the super chat. Seems like Faison has a burst and a purpose with his routes. Gonna miss Audric. He's a true ND guy, in my opinion. Thoughts on the NBC deal? Thanks for the info this week. We haven't talked about the NBC deal.
Yeah, so they basically just signed a 5-year extension of their current deal. I would imagine Notre Dame's going to get more from NBC.
I would hope so.
I asked somebody when they were going to announce how much the deal was worth, and the guy just kind of looked at me and was like, "Don't know that we ever will." It'll eventually come out from somebody. Somebody will leak it from one side, you know. But my guess is if they're not willing to give the terms, my guess would be that it's because it wasn't a deal they were.
It's not what they said they were looking for.
That's 100% my guess. 100% my guess. I also think the fact that it was only a 5-year deal also leads me to believe that it wasn't necessarily the deal that they were hoping for. Yeah. But that's 100% pure speculation. It could be. Now, here's the opposite, Vince. It could be that they got a bigger deal, but NBC was only willing to commit the bigger deal for 5 years. It could be that too.
Oh, yeah, right? Because that's when it was a 10-year deal.
Right.
Last time it was a 10-year.
Yeah. Pure speculation on my part. But it was cool. They talked about there's going to be there's going to be some series about Notre Dame football that's going to come out in 2024 on Peacock. It's like some documentary. It sounds like it's going to be some kind of documentary type of show or like some kind of history type of show. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but and then of course they'll have the pro day and is going to be on Peacock and then the blue gold game and all that other kind of stuff. But I mean, it's hard to really have an opinion on it because they didn't give the numbers. Like I hate NBC. To me, it means 5 more years of them treating Notre Dame like second-class citizens because it's 5-year extension. The contract didn't end until after next season. There was still 1 season left on the previous deal. They treat Notre Dame. They treated Notre Dame like a second-class citizen when they were the only football game they had.
Right.
And it's definitely not going to be.
And now they got the Big Ten.
Yeah. So it's like 5 more years of complaining about that is my guess. But
yeah, exactly.
If we find out the numbers, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's what really matters is how much did they get?
Right.
So
agreed. Tyler Evans with
one more from Iden. One more from Iden. Sorry.
Iden, thank you for the final super chat. Appreciate that. Ryan, any recruiting rumblings from today? It's probably a little early.
I was gonna try to do my best Ryan impersonation, but I'm not good at impersonation, so it might come across as disrespectful. So I'm not going to do that. Look, not a lot right now, but Notre Dame is doing very, very well with Ivan Taylor. I'll just leave it at that. They're doing very well there. And the list of guys today that were uncommitted is on the small side. But as far as like big top targets, he was really the big one. But I think that's his 3rd straight home game he's been to. Oh, wow. Top 100 safety from the 25 class out of Florida. Dad is Ike Taylor, played for the Steelers. Yeah,
they're coming up here 3 home games in a row from Florida.
Yeah,
I'd say that, I mean, that's all. If that's all you,
I'm pretty sure.
Say that's a pretty good sign.
It's definitely 2 games in a row because I'm pretty sure he was at the Pitt game. Actually, it might just be 2 games in a row. It might be a 2nd straight game that he's here.
But still,
but it's at least 2 home games in a row.
Still,
yeah, unofficial visits.
And these aren't like huge games. You know what I mean? Right. Like not marquee games, I guess.
But he has said he's going to decide after his junior year. He's had a heck of a junior season. From what I can tell on film, but that's really the big one for now. That's the big one for now. Other than the other updates we put up a week or so ago on the defensive targets, and Ryan gave his opinion on Christopher Burgess, and Cree Thomas is going to make his commitment on Monday to I think it's like Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I'd have to go back and look at his list, so he'll make his commitment announcement on Monday. We'll discuss that at some point in time on Monday. But yeah, so they're starting to really lock in on the 25 class, and then of course they're trying to finish off the 24 class with Nnamdi Akboko, so the kid from North Carolina who's committed to Georgia. So Ryan had a couple stories on him as well, but yeah, so we'll see how they finish. But yeah, things are going very, very well with Ivan Taylor. Now we can move on to Tyler Evans.
All right, Tyler, thanks for the super chat. Great win for the seniors, Jack Swarbrick and Father Jenkins, for the last time at home. And of course, Jack Swarbrick was also the honorary captain of the game, in case people didn't notice that. Okay, cool.
Did not notice that, and I'm going to move on from that pretty quickly. So Great win for the seniors. That was a big one. The only bummer from today was that Zeke Correll didn't get a chance to play.
Yeah.
That made me kind of sad when he ran out with his jersey on, but he was in he had
Track
sweats
pants or
and
sweatpants. Yeah.
that made me, because that's a kid, he hasn't had the 5th year that we'd hoped. It hasn't been bad. He's been solid, but that kid has just battled his butt off his whole career. He's battled injuries. He's a good kid. He's a good leader.
Sure.
And it was just a bummer. We don't know if he's going to come back or not next year, but if he doesn't come back, it's just a bummer that he didn't get a chance to play in his last game.
Yeah.
Because Zeke's a really good kid.
Right.
A really good kid and a quality football player. And I never want to see kids not get a play in their last game. So that was a bit of a bummer. I mean, for the future Notre Dame football, if Zeke doesn't come back, it was great that Ashton Craig's going to get a couple at least one start, and that's all good. But it was a bummer to see Zeke not be able to go out there and play. And just sentimentally, that's kind of how I felt about it.
That's fair. Raymond Harden, thanks for the super chat. Great win today for the seniors. Go Irish.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Tyler Reese, thanks for the super chat. Angeli looks fully capable to run this offense at QB1. That's a little bit of a stretch based on the fact that he's been in and he's running with the first team, but there's no pressure.
Here's the deal. I don't want to take anything away from what Steve Angeli's done. He's done a very nice job, but
for sure.
Phil Dracovic did the same exact thing in 2019. Every time he was on the field, they went down and scored.
Yes.
And he completed over 70. Look, I what I would say is this, and a buddy of mine said this to me on the phone, and he nailed it. So I'm not taking credit for this one. He said it, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. He said, "Here's what's good about how Steve Angeli's played this year. Here's the good part about it, right? Because he went 16 of 21 coming into the game. Today he went to 3 of 3 for 36 yards. So he's going to be 19 of 24 for 272 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's really good ball. And so what it means is that's just one more kid that's got some ability that's going to be in a quarterback battle. It just enhances the reality that you've got a better shot at because to me, him and Kenny are keys to whether or not you're going to bring in a transfer guy to really compete for the job. And so, but I have said this, and I have said this about Notre Dame. I've said this about NFL. Be very leery of putting too much into what a backup quarterback does for a couple reasons. Vince, you kind of nailed it. There's zero pressure.
Right.
And it's not just the pressure of the situation. I've said this before. Being the starting quarterback over a season, there's so much more pressure on you from an every single day basis, not just during the game, that you don't know how a guy is going to handle that. I mean, we have seen a lot. I still remember, why do you think Scott Mitchell got a big contract in the NFL? Because he started a few games for the Miami Dolphins off the bench, I believe filling in for Dan Marino, who was injured, and plays really well in 3 or 4 games. And then the Detroit Lions give him a big old contract. And guess what happens? He stinks as a starting quarterback. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to him. It just means he just wasn't good as a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
How about
and they gave him a big old contract to not be very good.
How about the kid from the Eagles who won him the Super Bowl?
Nick Foles?
Yeah, Nick Foles. He got that huge deal to go down to Jacksonville.
Matt Castle is another one. Comes off the bench, fills in that 1 year for Tom Brady, leads him to 10+ wins, and then he goes to the Chiefs, and he's just kind of very mid.
Yeah.
So I hope that Steve is that guy. I do.
Sure, me too.
But here's the second part. You have no idea what other guys would have done if they weren't in the game at that time. That's the thing. Is he's separating himself from Kenny Minchie. Oh, to a degree, sure, but you have no idea how Kenny Minchie would have performed had he gone in the game that time. You have no idea how Dylan Devinson would have gone. But that doesn't take away from the fact that on that touchdown pass, the RPO throw that he had, he pulled it. He just read it and ripped it, man. I've been wanting Sam Hartman to do all year on the wide fade. He read it and ripped it. I mean, that's what you want to see.
Absolutely.
And the ball was right on the money. That great. I want us to pump the brakes. Let's praise the job Steve did without kind of jumping to this type of conclusion, because I think that also puts a little bit of unfair expectations on Steve. You know what I mean? Because it's a whole lot different doing something as QB1.
Right.
But I do believe, like the throws he's made. It's those are throws a scholarship quarterback is supposed to be making at Notre Dame. Those are the throws that you expect the guy who's starting at quarterback to make for Notre Dame. That's a positive. Whatever the circumstances were, Vince, no pressure, whatever, he still made the throw. So he's physically capable of throwing some dimes. That's the key. That's the key. Now, does that mean he can be at his QB1? We have no idea.
Right.
Because I'm just telling y'all, as a quarterback, it's a different as a former quarterback, it's a different animal, man.
Absolutely.
When you're QB1. But I still love the fact that Steve's come out and the one thing people have different opinions of Steve Angeli, and people know mine. He's a nice, good backup quarterback, in my opinion. But he's made some nice. He's got some arm talent. But the thing about Steve Angeli that you never have to question, that is a confident kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kid's got some swagger to him, and sometimes Vince that can overcome not being an elite talent because he's not an elite talent. But we've seen guys with less size or arm talent, Steve Angeli, be good college quarterbacks. Why? Because they're smart and they've got some swagger to them. And that's Steve. So to me, I love guys, 19 to 24. I don't care what the circumstances are in a college football game, Vince. I don't care who you're throwing to or whether you're up by 90 points. That's impressive to complete. That's like up near 80% of his completions, right? 19 of 24. What is that? That is 79.2%. There's no spinning that negatively. It's just, to me, it's just like, let's just pump the brakes on the QB1 stuff. Let's let him go out there and earn it and win that job and then handle the day-to-day pressure of being the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Because we've seen this before.
And they're not naming the 24 starting quarterback today. Like
they better not.
You know what I mean? Like that's.
Well, I don't think that's what Tyler's saying, but it's just.
No,
like
I'm not saying Tyler's
saying
that.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's people in the chat that are like, they didn't even give Kenny a chance. Like, he's getting a chance, right?
Well,
it's not. Yeah. He's the third string quarterback right now, and today offered an opportunity for the second string quarterback to get in. It's not like they're not giving him a chance. They're not going to go straight from the starter to the third string. That's just not how things work. That's just not the way it goes at that position. That's the point that I'm making. So it's not like that. Yeah, it's not they're not giving him a chance. That's my thing.
Well, it's just we kind of see this all the time. It's like when Drew Pine came off the bench against Wisconsin 2 years ago and played really well, and it's like, oh, and then he goes out the next week against Cincinnati, and it does not look good. And then we saw what last year was, right? I mean,
and he's got confidence too. He has a lot of confidence in himself. That's one of the reasons that he transferred,
right?
So.
I just don't think it was a wise decision, but yes, you are correct.
It
is one of the reasons why he made that decision. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. All right. So let's go to the next one.
Charlie Weiss's last belt loop. Thanks a bunch, Charlie. Great win. I'm so happy to see the wide receivers get fed, especially seeing the young guys having success today. The future's bright. The talent is coming in. It's not just coming in. The talent's been here, and it's going to get an opportunity to play a more prominent role on both sides.
Yeah, it's just about developing. I mean, that's the key, right? What was it? Somebody said somebody sent a comment about a quarterback or something like that, and my response was just development. I mean, that's it was for some other team. And like, well, this guy really stepped in and performed. And I'm just like, that's what development is, man. And that's what we need to see. And that's the thing that gives me some hope that, maybe Gino Guidugli a great quarterbacks coach. I don't know that we know that one way or the other. He did a really nice job with Desmond Ritter, but, to watch Sam Hartman regress, it's not always the position coach. Because I've always said, if one guy struggles, then maybe it's that guy. But if the whole position group struggles, then that's coaching. Well, I've watched Steve Angeli come in and do the things we wish Sam Hartman would do and do them, reading and ripping RPOs and getting the ball down the field and going on the run. And, but again, doing that as a backup quarterback, does that mean, but, the development's key, right? Receivers still got to run better routes. They got to be a little bit sharper, but they went out there today and played confidently. And that's the big key to me. They played confidently and Sam eventually started getting the ball out there and they rewarded him for it. And I'm hoping that can be the thing, because I'd love to see Sam Hartman finish his career with just 2 big games, in the regular season. And then we'll see what he does if he decides to play in the bowl game, which I hope he does. But if he does, I'd love to see him finish his career with 3 big games and just finish on a really high note. Because, he's a good kid, and it hasn't gone how we'd hoped it would have gone.
For sure.
I still am glad he made the decision. but I think he could help really send this team into some positive momentum in the offseason by getting the ball to these kids, because they're better than we've seen. They are. And today was just a small taste of that, in my opinion.
Right. Agreed. Bronx ND fan, thanks for the super chat. Young O linemen look good. Your thoughts? I hope Blake stays one more year to elevate his game. It would be a mistake for Blake to go to the NFL right now.
Colossal.
I hate to say it, Brian. I don't think he gets drafted.
Oh, he'll get drafted just on potential.
Man, it's not a lot of great film out there, though.
Two things. Well, there is. That's the problem. There is some.
That's the problem.
Really good film, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's some games where you can put a game together. Like, dude, like go watch the Ohio State game.
It'd be a hell of a highlight film. How about that?
Like, even some game film. Like, go pop in the Clemson game from last year, going against first-round draft picks and eating them up. And go watch them against Miles Murphy last year, who's a first-round draft pick, and tell me Blake Fisher's not a talented kid. Go watch him against the kids from Ohio State this year when he probably had his best game of the year, and just watching him just push him off the ball. That's the frustrating thing. It's because there is that good film. And then you go watch him, in other games, you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
So he'd get drafted, but it'd be like day 3, late day 2, day 3, just on potential. Because the other thing he has going for him too is he was coached by Harry Hiestand for a year. That's gonna matter, Vince. I mean, that's gonna matter. But Blake would get picked. He just wouldn't get picked nearly as high enough for a true junior to justify going out.
From a talent.
I don't know why everybody keeps talking about him going out. It's not like Blake talks about that. I don't know why we keep talking about that. I don't even think it's a conversation.
I still think it's because of the fact that he was the starting left tackle when he got here, and everybody's like, "Hey, 3-year guy."
After a game,
you know what I mean? I know. I'm
game.
just saying, like, I still feel like people are still in that mindset.
Yeah.
But like that identical mindset at that identical point of time, nobody even knew who Joe Alt was. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You have to remember that. He didn't come around only until Blake got hurt, and he was the third choice after Blake.
That's right.
So, yeah. But yeah, Blake needs to come back. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly.
David Hess.
Real quick, Bronx ND fan, we both said we don't really watch the linemen a ton during, but tomorrow's upon further review, it'll at least be me. We're going to try and make it work with Vince as well, but at least be me. But we'll definitely dive into the offensive line during that. And that's normally kind of what we do. We don't spend a ton of time talking about the offensive linemen in these shows.
That should be on my.
All right, so I'll go ahead and read this one. So David Hess with a super chat. David said, "Hey guys, thanks for all the content in the boards. Question: why do you think they are looking portal QB again? Angeli looks solid when he's out there. Why not get him ready to start next year onward Notre Dame? Number one, even if Notre Dame decides to go with their own guys, it's not Angeli's job.
Right.
He's got to win the job. He's the backup quarterback who does well against the other team's backups." Right. Yes. So this isn't a hand Angeli the job. He's going to battle with Kenny Minchie. He's going to battle with CJ Carr. He's got to go win the job.
Oh, yeah.
But again, here's the deal. They need I've talked about this. They still need to get a portal quarterback. Number one, competition is not a bad thing. Number two, what if Steve Angeli beats out Kenny Minchie and Kenny transfers? Or what if Kenny Minchie beats out Steve Angeli and Steve transfers? Right now they're down to 2 quarterbacks, one of them being a true freshman. Or what if they all stay, but let's say somebody gets injured. Somebody has a seasoning injury, which we've seen at Notre Dame before.
Chance.
Now you're down to 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So even if it's, like I've said before, at the very minimum, they need a Hunter Johnson, Tristan Gebbia type of guy. Now, I use those 2 guys because Hunter Johnson went to Clemson a year or so ago and went there fully knowing he wasn't going to be competing for the starting quarterback job. He was there as insurance. He'd started games in the past, but he wants to get into coaching, and he was there if they needed him. And was a great leader and just, helped the team kind of whenever he could in any way as a mentor, whatever the case may be for the younger quarterbacks. If that's all they do, I'm fine with that. And he went 6 of 6 for 10 yards last year. But it was great to have him because you had DJ, you had Cade Klubnik, and then you had Hunter Johnson, which helped solidify the roster.
Absolutely.
So, and Tristan Gebbia was a kid that started some games at Oregon State, and again, veteran guy. He knew going to Ohio State that he was not going to be the starting quarterback or be competing for the starting quarterback. He went 10 of 11 the year before for 79 yards. He had started some games in the past, threw for 824 yards in 4 games before getting hurt in the COVID year in 2020. But he didn't go to Ohio State thinking you're going to battle with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. He didn't do that. It's you're going to be a depth guy. You're going to be a leader. You're going to help these young guys come along. The very least, you need that kind of guy, in my opinion, Vince.
Absolutely. You need a fourth arm. I mean, you need a fourth scholarship arm. And yeah, the jury's still out as to what the transfer is going to be that they bring in. They're going to bring in a transfer. So everybody needs to take a breath and just that's going to happen. It's going to happen. It just depends on which one they get and the goal of that fourth kid that they're bringing in, right? Everybody just needs to just let the process play out. Let it play out and see what happens. But they were an injury away from being down to 2 scholarship quarterbacks this year, Brian. And that's just, I mean, it's not where you want to be. That is not where you want to be. That's not a healthy place for the room to be. It's not a healthy place for the program to be. And so the reality is when you go out and you get these high-level quarterbacks and a guy is starting and other guys aren't, somebody's going to transfer out. And I'm not saying that with these 3 guys. I'm just saying in general, that's usually the case. So you need to kind of stockpile the room so that you have enough guys so that you can take those hits, you can take those blows and still be okay from a depth standpoint. So, it's okay to go get another arm, and they still may go with a guy that's homegrown. You just you got to wait and see. You got to wait and see how it goes. Trevor Rocket with the super chat. Thank you very much, Trevor, Brian, Vince, and Ryan. Thank you for shows like this. It's appreciated. Glad to see the lads take care of business on Senior Day. Really like what I saw from Ashton Craig and Billy Schrouth inside. #Lindsay Tough.
Hope she's doing well. Hope she's still battling. Sounds like she is. Glad to hear that, Trevor. That's the feedback I've gotten. We've heard in the chat and from a couple people that watched, and it sounds like the young guys held their own, Vince. I didn't really see them a lot, but sounds like they did. So that's great. That's great. I'm looking for. I'm actually going to go back and watch it tonight and watch them to watch a little bit of the O-line tonight. So
look at you. You just can't wait. You're such a coach.
I can't. No.
Matt M, thank you so much for the super chat. Hello, all. What are the odds that Notre Dame has their special teams conditioning coach, strength and conditioning coach hired before their bowl game? And thank you for all the elite level coverage as always. Well, you're welcome, Matt.
It's possible. Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's possible. I don't know what the time frame is. I honestly don't. I mean, it's going to have to be quick because they're going to need the guy in place
like January.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And you got to have time to, have a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And go over it with Marcus Freeman and get it approved. There's a whole process that goes into the offseason plan. It's not just, hey, guys, see you in the weight room.
Yeah.
Let's go get a lift in. There's a process and a plan and a program and all of those different things. Right. So I would think that a lot of the interviews are going to take place in December, to be honest with you. I would be shocked if that was not the case.
Yeah.
Because this is and I think Marcus Freeman understands this. I really do. This is a really, really important hire for the future of this program.
I've said this before. You could make a case that the strength coach is the most important hire, more than O-line coach, coordinators, and all that. That the strength coach is the number one hire that a coach can make, because a really good strength coach can make your coaches better. And a guy that doesn't do a good enough job can hurt your staff. And the perfect example is 2015 with Paul Longo. Yeah. Or 2016 with 15 and 16 really with Paul Longo.
Right.
Which certainly hurt that football team. No doubt about it.
Agreed. Totally agree. Trash. Top 5 name. Thanks, Trash. Appreciate the super chat. Wake Forest is our son. We've beaten them the last several times we've played, including the last few senior days, 2012, 15, 17, 23. Love IB. Thanks, Trash.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And it's
Notre Dame's they've never lost a Wake. So
correct. And I believe Clausen is 0-4 against Notre Dame. So
he was 0-3
coming in.
So 0-4. So then Jim Grove was there in 11-12, right? Because the first time the 11 game was the first time they'd ever played. I was actually at that game. It was at Wake.
Okay.
It's the first time those two teams ever played.
Gotcha.
And then they played again the next year. And then what were the other years you had? 15, 17, and 23. The 15 game, that was a wild game. If you remember, that was a game. Notre Dame won by 11, but it was never that close. It just, in the second half, Wake just kept scoring to make it closer. But Notre Dame had over 700 yards that game of offense. And Brandon Wimbush went off. It just went off. Only really played the first 2 quarters. But that was the game. Remember, Chase Claypool had that deep ball hit right off his face. Remember that, Vince, at home? That was that game. He played a good game otherwise, but he had a ball go right off his face. And that was a weird game. And then 2018, they played, because those are all that he's talking about, all the home games. Those are all for senior day. Because they were senior day. And I think
that makes sense.
17, they were not. That was not senior day against Wake in 17. Senior day was a couple weeks later against Navy, was actually senior day. But they were senior day this year. They were in 2015 and they were in 2012. They were senior day in all those years. But
You're much better at research than I am. I just have right here.
It's not research, it's just remembering it. Yeah.
On the card, it says Dave Clawson's 0-3 against Notre Dame. So that's
because he would have been on the 2015. He would have been the head coach in for 2017, 2018, and 2015, right? What was Dave Clawson's first year at Wake Forest? Do you remember? It was 2015, wasn't it? Let me see here. It was 2014
now.
It's 2014. So he coached against Notre Dame in 15. He coached against Notre Dame in 17. He coached against Notre Dame in 18, and then this year
23.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now they were supposed to play Wake in 20. Remember that game got pushed back, and then eventually got canceled. Remember they were supposed to play in early in the year, and then Notre Dame had their COVID outbreak, and that canceled that game. And then later in the year they're supposed to play again, and then Wake had their COVID outbreak, and they canceled it again. So they were supposed to play in 2020.
Gotcha.
But obviously
that schedule got all jostled up. Yeah.
Yep. So, but yes, Wake has never beaten Notre Dame. Yeah. Yep.
Connor, my guy, Connor Patton. Thanks for the super chat, man. Thanks, gentlemen. I'm excited for the live show. He's referring to the fact we're going to do a game watch next week for the Stanford game. NBC and ABC can be irritating at times. So just turn down the volume and listen to us, man. Like it's going to be fantastic.
I would encourage everyone, and I'm just going to say this now. I'm going to go try to find the how to watch article, Vince. But if you all go, I'm going to put it in the chat here. But if you all go to this article that I'm going to put in the chat. So Fubo TV is partnered with SI, who we are with.
Oh, okay.
And if you click on that how to watch article, there's actually a link to start a trial with Fubo TV. What I would encourage you to do is sign up for Fubo TV and then maybe just pay for the Pac-12 network. And I like Fubo. We use Fubo. My wife uses it because they have the Great American channel, which is it's kind of like a better version of Hallmark because it's a little bit more family friendly than Hallmark has become, and it's more Christian oriented, which my wife likes. Actually, matter of fact, GAC just signed with PureFlix, which is the Christian streaming channel. But so we like Fubo. Vince, you use it. So
guilty.
Yeah. So I would give them a shot, and I just put that in there. And if you've ever thought about trying for Fubo as a if you're looking for a streaming service, if you ever wanted to try Fubo, it's a little bit more expensive than YouTube TV, but there's some things I like about it better than YouTube TV, some things I don't, but I'd give it a shot. And then, like I said, in that link I just put in the channel, you will see you'll see the link there to the start your free trial. So give that a look. But yes, I'm looking forward to the live show too. We were talking about, do we want to do it or not? And then we're like, yeah, let's do it, man. Like,
yeah,
it's just it just takes a little bit of coordination, but yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Yes, it does.
We'll probably do a little bit differently than last year. We learned some lessons. People like for us to say, hey, look, okay, what's the down and distance? What player are you talking about? So we'll do a little bit more play-by-play color type stuff than we did last time.
Now you're in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Bayside Tigers 6, another fantastic name. So this is like the Hall of Fame of screen names.
I love his super chat too, by the way.
This is great. It says Xavier Watts without any picks or forced fumbles today clearly he needs another year in the system. Hey, he didn't go out with senior day. He didn't run out of the tunnel today.
He did?
No, he did not. I don't think so anyway. I was kind of paying attention, and I don't remember seeing him. It's a great sign if that's the case, if I remembered that correctly. So I really want him back as well. There's no doubt about that. That he kind of solidifies the back end of that secondary, man. And you're going to have Benjamin Morrison back, and you get Gray on the other side, and probably, secondary is going to be another really good secondary for Notre Dame next year. Is what it's shaping up to be. So
yeah. And how about the job that Mike Mickens has done to where you're going to lose Cam Hart, who's been phenomenal, by the way, the last season and a half. And you're like, yeah, it sucks that you're going to lose Cam, but you're going to be okay.
You're not going to miss a step. And again, look, no one will trumpet Cam Hart more than me or louder than me.
And it's not a knock on Cam Hart. It's just that's where you want to be as a program. You know who else wants Notre Dame to not miss a beat when he leaves? Cam
Hart. Yeah,
Cam Hart, because that's the kind of kid he is. That's the kind of leader he is. Like, look, he wants Christian Gray to go out there. These kids don't leave like, I hope the guy that replaces me sucks next year. So people, they don't think like that, right? Like we might, you know what I mean? But they don't think like that. That's part of Cam's leadership, is he's grooming Jaden Mickey and Christian Gray. Hey, 100%. Do what I do. You want to be great like I am? Watch how I prepare. Watch how I break down film. Watch how I study the opponent. And then it's like the O-line do the same thing. So if Cam's watching Cam will be in the NFL next year. If he's watching Notre Dame games and he sees Christian Gray or Jaden Mickey locking people down, he's going to feel like a sense of pride. Like I had a role in that.
Yeah.
Right. And so, it's not saying a negative on Cam Hart, because Cam is like, there's nobody on the planet, Vince, that's bigger Cam Hart's the dude than this channel. Right. I mean, we've been saying all along, Benjamin Morrison's legit, but Cam Hart's been their best corner for the last year and a half. Benjamin just gets all the love. And again, I think Benjamin's a dude. It's just that's how good I think that Cam Hart's been.
Yeah.
But that's why you recruit the way you recruit, and why you go get Christian Grays and guys like that, because it's like, I still hope they move Jaden Mickey to nickel with Thomas Harper leaves. I would love to see Christian Gray and Jaden Mickey and Benjamin Morrison on the field together next year.
Yes, 100%. That's the three that I want. Those are the three in my, they're leaders in the clubhouse for me.
Yep.
For the starting corner / nickel spots.
There's
no doubt. And then you put Xavier Watts at safety, and
let
the other safety just play out, because there's some talent there, whether it's a young guy that steps in,
Antonio Carter,
right.
Ramon Henderson, maybe the light goes on for him as a fifth-year guy, maybe, who knows?
I just feel like the other one will take care of itself. If those are the four guys that are starting in the secondary, the other safety will take care of itself.
Yeah.
So
Ben Minnick will battle in that, all of it.
Kay Grant with a nice super chat. Thank you very much, Kay. Just a Shamrock and hashtag Go Irish. I can get on board with
Love
that.
it, baby.
Thank you. Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts with the second super chat. Thank you very much. Do you think Blake leaves after this year? If you had to predict, who will be starting at left tackle and right tackle in game 1 next year?
I mean, I don't have a clue. I mean, right now I'd lean towards the veterans, Blake Fisher and Tosh Baker, but it's going to be a battle. Emil Wagner's going to have a say in that. Perhaps Charles Jagasol. You know what I mean? So
is Charles Jagasol practicing on the outside, or is he an inside guy?
He's done both.
Okay,
he's done both. But it's like you needed him here this year because he's not going to play tackle. You know, so you get him some work at guard because you made him there. But maybe Gearby comes in and plays well. I don't know the answer to that, but
sure.
I need to see the spring. I mean, so that's why I say right now I'm going to go with the guys that is a returning starter, and I do expect Blake Fisher back. I don't know why he would leave.
And Tosh is the first man in right now.
Yes,
I mean,
and the coaches like Tosh a lot. I mean,
for sure.
They think he's a good player. So that would be it would have to be Emil and those other guys have to play really well,
right,
to get that. Yeah.
Trash again. Thanks for the super chat. Media, when it comes to our injuries, makes me sick. No one ever talks about it. Our wins get downplayed. Our losses make us overrated. Love IB and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I understand all that, but Georgia went out and had 2 big wins when Brock Bowers was hurt. They started the season off 4-0 without Ladd McConkey. And guys, Ohio State's run the table this year. They haven't had Emeka Egbuka at times. They haven't had Travion Henderson at times. Tommy Eichenberg hasn't played the last 2 games. They're winning 20-0 right now. Everybody has injuries, right? Notre Dame should not have lost to Clemson because they didn't have Jaden Thomas and Mitchell Evans. I'm sorry, there were opportunities there. So I understand, and I think sometimes we can underplay injuries too much, where we don't put enough into not having Jaden Thomas and Mitchell Evans and Deion Colsey. Let's be honest. Chancey Stuckey wasn't playing Deion Colsey before he got hurt.
Right, that's true.
The game against Navy, where he had a really good game, he only played like 9-10 snaps.
Yeah,
because for whatever reason, Chancey Stuckey, just certain players he just doesn't like, and it drives me nuts. But
the losses that Notre Dame has had this year, to me, has nothing to do with injuries. I don't see it that way. It wasn't like they lost. I mean, Mitchell Evans was a big loss. Okay.
He played against Louisville.
Right.
Jane Thomas played against Louisville.
Right. So that's not for this particular season, in a nutshell, right? Or in a box or whatever. I just don't see injuries being.
And Clemson was missing 8 starters against Notre Dame.
Thank you.
8 starters.
Which is why I was even more confident
their
that Notre
starting
Dame
running
was
back
win.
gets hurt.
Yeah.
And their backup running back goes in there and runs for 186 yards. So like 100%. They get a makeshift offensive line and they go out there and run all over Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from, but no, we're not. I'm not doing that. Like, because to Vince, to your point, I can't look at the losses they had and say, well, if only so and so would have played. Well, I'd say, well, if only they would have had an 11th guy on the field, but like that's a different deal.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with injuries. Yeah,
I mean, you can say we make you sick all you want. But you can't convince me that Notre Dame's got 3 losses right now because of the injuries.
Because of injuries,
Can't.
Right.
You just can't.
Yep.
Because the 2 games after losing to Louisville, they went out and scored 106 points the next 2 weeks without Jaden Thomas in the lineup. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, and Mitchell Evans isn't the only tight end with 100 yards receiving. And look, Eli Raridan should have been more used last week, and they tried to a couple times, but Sam didn't throw him the football. But as you saw today, they got plenty of talent at tight end, and that's not a knock on Mitchell at all. Mitchell's a heck of a player
for sure,
but he shouldn't be why you went and lost to Clemson, especially since Clemson had 8 starters not playing the game because of injuries.
100%. That makes that loss even worse, actually.
So
to be honest,
I get where you're coming from, man, and we love you too, but I hope that the Notre Dame coaches aren't using that as an excuse why they lost 3 games. Because if it is, that means they're not going to address the real reasons why this team is 8-3 and not 10-1 or 11.
Right.
That's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
So, looks like that's going to do it.
Oh, is that all? Holy cow! All right,
that's all.
Sounds
the
good.
Chats.
Well, everybody, thanks for joining us for the final home game edition of the post-game show, an Irish Breakdown podcast. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. And but make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Give us a 5-star review. Tell your family and friends. We got 2 more post-game shows coming up, but we've got a week's worth of content coming your way. Obviously, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, so there's going to be a little bit of a different menu of shows, since we do want to spend some time with our families.
We will probably we will publish a show on Thursday.
Gotcha.
We won't go live on Thursday, but we'll have a show. Vince, I'm going to get with you and see if something you and I can do this week.
Cool.
We'll talk about it. But normally we have our prediction show on Thursday. We'll probably bump that to Friday. We haven't quite figured that part out yet, but we will have a show that we will publish. And we may also just record the Keys to Victory and prediction show on Thursday and then we'll figure all that out, but we will not have a show on Thursday. We are going to have a show tomorrow night at 8. Not sure if it's going to go live at 8, whether Vince is there or not. We'll see. Depends on the hotel internet connection. And then Monday we'll be back to a normal schedule. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be normal days for us as far as the shows. Yep. Ryan and I will do a mailbag on Monday. We'll do a Stanford preview on Tuesday. I'll do a midweek rundown solo on Wednesday, and then we'll be off Thursday. But like I said, we will publish a show on Thursday. It just won't be a live show because we'll be spending time with our families on Thanksgiving, and we hope that you all will be doing the same. But if you're driving, or if you got some time, or if you need to get away from the family, a little too much family, we'll have a show for you to listen to. We'll put it on the podcast platform, but We'll probably put it on YouTube as well, but we'll definitely also put it on the podcast platform. So you'll want to check that out.
And then a week from today, Brian, we're gonna have our live watch party.
Yeah.
So you guys make sure, and we'll tell you guys all about that.
Yeah. And what time's the game? Is it a 7 o'clock game?
I believe it's 7 even this time around. So
I'm looking at it now. I'm seeing here real quick. So Notre Dame and Stanford next week is at, where is it? A lot of 7 o'clock on Pac-12 Network. So we'll probably go live
a little earlier,
30 minutes beforehand, just to kind of pregame it a little bit. And then we'll get started right at 7 with the sort of a play-by-play analysis of the game. So
absolutely. Should be a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun last year. Even though the outcome wasn't fantastic, we had a lot of fun doing our game watch. So we're going to do it again.
And yes, it is 7 o'clock Eastern.
Yes.
So we always give times Eastern wise because we're Eastern.
Yep.
So yes, it is 7 o'clock Eastern is when the game is.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys tune in, but make sure you tune in tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, et cetera, because IB is always the place to be to get your fix on Notre Dame football. So thanks everybody for joining us. For Brian, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Woo!